Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Got a good show here for you today, folks. We're going to talk Jack the Ripper. We haven't done that in quite a while. You know, Jack the Ripper may seem like the most discussed topic on most true crime shows, and it's true of this one as well. Over the years, I think we've tackled just about almost every angle there is when it comes to Jack the Ripper, but I don't think we've tackled this one. We have an interesting book that's out there that I want to talk about today, and an interesting guest that came our way via our good friend Alan Warren from House of Mystery Radio. Our guest is author Michael L. Hawley, and the book is called Dr. Francis Tumblety and the Railway Ripper. Now, I'll tell you folks, I was a little familiar with the case before, but the book really started to open eyes. And, you know, when you think of Jack the Ripper, you get the stereotypical Ripper dossier, so to speak, or the characteristics of Jack the Ripper and what you come to expect when it comes to Jack the Ripper. But if I told you, and you know, you've heard the theory before of, well, was Jack the Ripper both in England and in the United States? Did he travel between the two? And we've explored that with Jeff Mudgett when he believed that his great-great-grandfather was the Ripper. Well, this goes down that aisle, so to speak, but also takes you down some other ones. Maybe the Ripper wasn't as smart as you think. Yes, he had some medical training, but was he as trained as you think? And was he a bit of a snake oil salesman? We'll delve into that and some other things as well. Let's bring in our guest right now, Michael Hawley. Let's tell you a little bit about him. Michael Hawley has a passion for research and storytelling. He holds a master's degree in science and secondary science education from the State University of New York College of Buffalo, and a bachelor's degree in geology and geophysics at Michigan State University. He's a commander and naval aviator in the U.S. Navy. He's retired and currently enjoying a career in secondary science education. Now, here's where it gets tricky, folks. You want to give him a bad review? Well, he's got a 6th-degree black belt in Aikido and a black belt in Judo. I would think twice. His wife and he also have 6 kids, which means he's really tough. Let's bring in right now Michael Hawley. Michael, thank you so much for joining us here.
Oh, I have to update that. They promoted me to 7th for some reason.
They did?
Yes. Well,
I'm not messing with you, my friend. I know that much. You get 5 stars from me. The book is very good, by the way. It's a very good book.
Thank you.
Let's start out slow here. And I want to talk about just the overall stereotypical dossier we have on the Ripper. And we tend to think, you know, we've been fed this line about the Ripper for you know, let's call it decades, if not, you know, since the 1880s. We've been told, well, the Ripper must be highly intelligent because he dissected women, you know, he must know his body parts because he dissected them with this fine knowledge of the human body. And, you know, he had to have been a surgeon, or he had to have been someone with high medical knowledge. And, you know, there had to have been, you know, he had to have fit a certain description, and he had to have been this, and he had to have been that. What's interesting about the book is that you get behind Dr. Francis Tumblety as the suspect, and a very good suspect at that, and you break down why exactly he is the Ripper, or why he should be considered the Ripper. But why is it that other suspects aren't as strong?
Well, you can look at it in a couple different ways. One is, what did Scotland Yard think, both during the WhiteChapel murders and also afterwards, hindsight? Mm-hmm. And what Francis Tumblety, by the way, he was one of the prime suspects, and that's what I had demonstrated, that when the murder stopped, nobody saw the murders, so they arrested him on suspicion, but nobody saw the murders. So, but they had him nailed on a misdemeanor charge of gross indecency that would have put him in prison for 2 years. But he was rich, so he posted bail, sneaked out of the country, and the murder stopped. Well, what happened was, we found out, and this is now verified beyond doubt, that they followed him to America, and they did an investigation on him for a while in America. And so they would not have invested so much their resources on there. And also they they were embarrassed that this guy slipped out through their fingers, so they did not tell anyone. This is one of those classified things. But like he, first of all, is one of the suspects, and so there's a handful. Scotland Yard itself, if you go on the website, they have a handful of suspects that a Scotland Yard official commented upon, and Tumblety's one of those. And so, but there's about 300 of them that people, add to it nowadays, a suspect. But in the case with Tumblety, not only, I mean, with him, the he fits so much with some of the other suspects. You only find just a smidgen that he, let's say, for example, one particular suspect that he fit an eyewitness description of somebody, even though no one saw the murders, an eyewitness description of somebody that was possibly with that unfortunate. Therefore, it just goes crazy. Then people see that he was a nasty guy. So there's just not a wealth of information since it's a 140-year-old case. What I did was I kept on finding more things. I mean, for example, just a few years back, there was a court case in St. Louis, over 40 sworn testimonies of talking about Francis Tumblety in the last 20 years of his life. It was just a wealth of information. So what happens is it just keeps on coming, and all of it was damning. For example, we didn't know that every year he was going to New Orleans from 1881 to 1900. He was carrying a surgical kit with surgical knives. That's what we know that Jack the Ripper used. That was in the 1880s. And then in the 1881, he put the knife against a young man who was a male prostitute, but he wanted to force it. And he said, so he was threatening this young man. That young man even said that Tumblety said, there's two things. I know. The young man had a cigarette in his mouth, so Tumblety ripped the cigarette out of his mouth and gave him a cigar and said, there's two things wrong with young men these days: cigarettes and streetwalkers. They both should be disemboweled. We just found that out. Scotland Yard never knew that, and he was still considered one of the top suspects. It's like, so I just keep on finding stuff, and that's why it's kind of fun. I interviewed in Liverpool, or I gave a lecture in Liverpool. It's kind of fun because here's an American going to England to do a lecture on Jack the Ripper with a British serial killing. So, and then I was flown to Dublin for a 3-hour interview. So it's really exciting but it's all this new information that has been discovered in the last few years. So I think that's one of the reasons why he's now he goes above and beyond, because I just keep on finding new material. And one of the reasons is nobody was searching, because it's just what you said, that when Stuart Evans had discovered that Tumblety was a suspect by this private letter from the Chief Inspector Littlechild, who said that he was a likely suspect, there was only limited information. So when there's limited information, that the experts can really weave a story of either yes, he was, or no, he wasn't. So when I got involved, it just kept on getting more and more piling up. So, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest reasons why its perception is not that they have less. That's probably should be expected by a 140-year-old case. It's what we have more of. I mean, 40 sworn testimony of the guy about the guy in his last 20 years. Who would have expected that? So
right. And we'll get to that here in a little while, as to the things that seem to keep piling up with him. There's some things that you have in the book, especially in the title of the book. You talk about the Railway Ripper, which refers to a case that happened in Chicago, I believe. So we'll talk about that case too, because that's very interesting. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But the things that happened surrounding this man, and the fact that Scotland Yard did put money into investigating him all the way into America, suggests that there was more than just a hunch that Tumblety was the man. They knew they had their man. So later in the program, we'll discuss why give up, why let up off the gas when it comes to Tumblety. I want to ask you, Michael, briefly here. What were the beginnings behind Tumblety? What was it about him that set him on this course? Because you just don't come out of the womb wanting to start cutting up streetwalkers. Right. I mean, that's not a a thing that just happens.
Right. There are a couple things. One is if you look at serial killers, and the one of the common things amongst all serial killers is they lack remorse. So if you're looking at either a psychopath or a sociopath, they lack remorse, but they don't start killing right at when they're born or anything. What happens is there's a trigger that does it. Yet, so once they start killing, they realize they have a taste, or it was not as bad as they thought, or they won't get caught. Just like Eileen Wuornos, when she murdered in January, she stopped for 6 months, realizing she probably is not getting caught, and then bam, once a month there are these murders.
Mm-hmm.
So with Tumblety himself, if you look at the history, he was actually born in Ireland in County Meath, and it was a poor tenant farm, poor, and that he came to America on a famine ship. So there were lots of people starving at the time. But when he got to America, Rochester, there was actually family already here. But he got hooked up within the from 1847 to 1856, a couple quack doctors, different kinds, and then he started on his business across the border into Canada as an Indian herb doctor. Within 3 years, he became a millionaire. What happens is what we see right from the outset is that he always has a bad taste. He does not like women. He has a hatred of widow or maid, actually. But what happened is he was he was a number of things. One was he was religious. He was a Catholic. And back then, it was not doctrine, but a lot of Catholics believed it was not Adam that committed the original sin. It was Eve deceiving Adam. Therefore, women are the curse of the land, which includes disease. Disease was put on the land because of the original sin. So he blamed that. So he was born, and I can't believe we discovered this. He was born as in an intersex condition they used to call hermaphrodite, where he had both male and female parts. His penis was the size of the tip of his thumb. And then so he was asked one time by his Baltimore attorney years ago, and who saw that, and he said he had heard from the police that it was like that, and he said that it was a curse that has followed him all of his life. But he blamed women for that. And then what happened is that trigger is that you could see a lack of remorse right from the beginning, because what he would do is he would just sexually abuse young men, and there, when he was starting to go through Canada in his business, he was claiming he was also an MD, a medical doctor.
Okay.
But in Toronto, your American doctors' diplomas aren't good enough. You have to go in front of the medical board. And so what happened was they arrested him, and he lost the case because he had a fake diploma from Philly, but it wasn't good enough. So then what you see, he wanted to stay in Toronto because he just made $1 million.
Right.
So he, for the next couple of years, started collecting organs and practicing dissection. So he was actually the doctor that was with him prior to his death, with him every night for 20 days. They asked if Tumblety had medical knowledge. He says absolutely. He had, and he loved amputation.
Really?
This is the doctor talking about Tumblety, that he had a thing and knew how to do it. So here's Tumblety, while he was going through Canada, that one of his patients died in St. John's in 1860. So the coroner's inquest that they had, the evening that they said that he should be charged with manslaughter, Tumblety sneaked into the examination room and tried to steal the organs. So then the next year is when an eyewitness saw that he had a huge anatomical collection, and his favorite parts were the uterus, his uterus collection. Here's Jack the Ripper stole the uterus out of two women. And so it just keeps on going. And then so you can see this pattern. But the reason why he did that lecture is because he wanted to convince General McClellan that he was a surgeon. And back then, surgeons, what they would do is they would create their own anatomical specimens, and then they would do illustrated medical lectures. Mm-hmm. And so I have a report of him doing an illustrated medical lecture in Buffalo, New York, within 6 months before that.
Okay.
So he just kept on going. So what was your original question? Because I can keep on going with it again.
We're getting into the beginnings of his life and what got him onto this path of becoming the Ripper, or even becoming a serial killer.
Yeah, one more thing. Yeah, that's
Sure.
right.
Yeah.
What I was going to add, one more thing before that. What happened was in 1880, I found out that he had syphilis.
Okay.
And for a number of reasons. One is he would go to hot springs. He changed his whole lifestyle, and now it was about health. And hot springs was the mecca for syphilis patients. And then in 1886, 2 years before the murders, is when he realized that he had neurosyphilis, or what they used to call paresis. So he even wrote about it in one of his 6 autobiographies. So, but yeah, so
6.
that was the pattern you could see. And so I saw that pattern, and then and that was actually kind of new. People didn't see that before.
Now, Michael, you just said something very interesting. The man wrote 6 autobiographies,
Yes,
so he couldn't get enough of himself.
narcissistic personality disorder on steroids, and that's one of the things about the when you look at serial killers like Ted Bundy,
Mm-hmm.
that they had two things. They weren't crazy. They had either antisocial personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder, or both at the same time.
Okay.
And Tumblety, he was antisocial. He never talked to people. When he was advertising, he certainly did, but he
Sure.
would only talk to his young men. And then 6 autobiographies, and so half truths and truths and half truths and lies in there. So I could pick out where he was going with some of these.
So where does the truth stop and the lie begin? I mean, is it obvious when you read these autobiographies, or is it a little hard to tell where that line blurs?
But actually, it's actually obvious, meaning, as in, when you go from one autobiography to the next, he will quote some famous surgeon because he claimed he was a disciple of Abernathy, who was an early 19th century surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
So even though he was a quack doctor, herb doctor, his hero basically was Abernathy. Well, then what happened was all these quotes and these poems that were from herbal doctors in the past. He quoted them in his first autobiographies. His later autobiographies, it was him that wrote it. It was part of his paragraph. So I could see that he was doing this. So another one would be, so when he was arrested on suspicion of being a murderer and he came back to America. Now, he was arrested for a misdemeanor charge, so they could not extradite him back to England.
Okay.
So, but what happened was that was end of 1888. 1889, February, he wrote another autobiography, and the only difference between that and his first one, or the latest one before that, at the 1872, was he wrote a chapter on what was it called? It was actually trying to explain I would say how the press has been bad to him, and how they're but what happened is from 1889, even though he never talked about Jack the Ripper or the Ripper or England, he was kind of arguing against that case, but it didn't do well. But in 1893 was his next autobiography. Between 1889 and 1893, he started giving to causes, giving to the poor, and to the New York Herald. And it was always published in the New York Herald. And so in that 1893 autobiography, he was trying to show that he was a caring person. Every single one of those were in his autobiography. When that autobiography was published, never gave again. He never gave before, never gave again, only between those 2 times. So what happens is, if you look at his life and so travel, meaning this, he was born as a tenant farmer, but he told everybody his father was a famous surgeon in Dublin. So he was a retired, and then he would tell everybody in his later life that he was a retired Army surgeon. Well, we know what happened during the Civil War. He was not a retired Army surgeon, but he definitely had knowledge. And that was one of the reasons why he carried those surgical kits with him. It's because only retired physicians would carry surgical kits with them.
Interesting stuff. You would think too that, I get that he's a narcissist and that he's going to continue to try to build himself up, but eventually when you try to carry the lie far enough, you'll get caught in that lie. But you have to ask yourself too, who is there that's out there that's going to try and call him out on it?
Well, that's exactly. As a matter of fact, by the way, now he was in all the newspapers when he was that newspaper advertising man. He was multi column ads claiming he could cure all, and lots of people believed him, because one time he went to Toronto, and a young man came in for his acne, and he says, "Oh, you're a goner. you have tuberculosis. Good news. I have these pills that if you take for 2 weeks, with how, extremely expensive, come back with me, and I guarantee you that your tuberculosis will be gone. The young man would come back, and he would be cleared. He was so convinced that he had tuberculosis that he would write in the papers how great Francis Tumblety was. Tumblety was just a genius at it, brilliant guy, but he kept that up. And then what again was your question?
Well, just that, when you advance the lie so far, the fact of the matter is that someone would have to call you out on it, but I can't imagine that anybody cared enough to want to call him out on that lie.
Right. And also, speaking of that, when he stopped advertising and he changed around 1878 to 1880. No longer was he in the paper, and he used to avoid the paper. And the only reason I found him in the paper is when he was arrested for molesting a young man. Mm-hmm. So then, but what happened is when he was in England, even though they don't have the file, Chief Inspector Littlechild stated that there was a huge file on Tumblety, and then we can't find it. But we can't find the file on any of the top suspects, by the way. So it was probably in the same pile as those other top suspects. But what happened is they arrested him on this gross indecency, but the paper said it was it was a violation of the Maiden Tribute Act. So everybody thought, and what that was about was that young men were abusing young women and maidens. Okay. So when you looked at the paper, it looked like Tumblety was actually abusing young women, which kind of fit with the abusing women thing. So it wasn't too out of the way for Jack the Ripper. Mm-hmm. But what happened is in England, nobody really knew who he was. Even though in America, many people in certain cities did, but there was that decades long, so people kind of forgot about him. So when you look at the newspaper and said, oh, an American was arrested on suspicion, who is this guy? So then they had to go through their old archives to find out what this was. And then they find older gentlemen and ladies that remembered him. So that's kind of how he did it. So he really kind of hid behind the bushes. And one of the things they realized is from 1860 at least all the way to the 1900, each night he would always go to the cities, and each night he would go into the slums, in the darkest areas they'd call it, where the prostitutes were. Each night, that was his thing, to go in the slums that night. So, and that's where he got himself in trouble too. Yeah. But he always carried a roll of money in one pocket, jewelry in the other pocket, never to be mixed. And one of the reasons why he did that is if he got arrested, he could tell the police that he was a man of higher status. Look at all the stuff I have, so you should treat me so. And he'd actually got away with a lot of things because of that. So, but of course, there's one, the 39 unsolved murders I talk about that were in America. One of them has this man that had a roll of cash. So that's a story that I'll talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Let's do this. Why don't we take our break now? When we come back, I want to get into Tumblety and why it was that let's just say he floated through life so freely and yet was not caught more often at some of the things he did. As you mentioned, Michael, he managed to float around with all this cash and these jewels, but yet people keep describing him when they're being attacked. And he had some very distinct features. And we'll talk about those distinct features when we come back. He had a certain coat he wore. He had a certain look to him. And yet he's being named in all these different attacks. We'll talk about some of those cities he was in and these different attacks and the different years he did these attacks. And what was the deal with going between Whitechapel and, say, New York City, or Whitechapel in different areas in America? We'll talk about why he went back and forth from England to the States. We'll do that when we come back. The name of the book, and by the way, folks, I encourage you to go out and get the book right now. We have a link in the description of this program, is Dr. Francis Tumblety and the Railway Ripper. Our guest is the author, Michael L. Hawley, Hawley. And when we come back, we'll talk about Dr. Tumblety, and we'll talk about why he made that trip back and forth from the UK to the United States. We'll do that when we come back right here on The Best in True Crime Podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the Best in True Crime Podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Our guest is Michael L. Hawley. The book is Dr. Francis Tumblety and the Railway Ripper, talking about Dr. Francis Tumblety and the likeliness that he himself is Jack the Ripper. When we last left you, we were talking about Dr. Tumblety and his penchant for wanting to go between Whitechapel and the United States. And Michael, we were talking before the break about some very distinct things, habits, features that Dr. Tumblety had. Let's start first of all with over the years going between the UK and the United States. What was it about Dr. Tumblety that he felt he needed to go back and forth? Why was this?
It started in 1873, and the reason for that is because in 1865, he was arrested on suspicion to be involved with the Lincoln assassination, because he really did. He loved the theater, and I have evidence that he was hanging out with John Wilkes Booth in Buffalo, New York, although the Army did not know that at the time. But David Harold, who was an accomplice with John Wilkes Booth, there was a young man that thought that David Harold was hired by Tumblety in Brooklyn, in New York City, in Brooklyn. And so in 1864, and that's why he was arrested, but he wasn't. And I know who it was. It was a different person.
Okay.
But it was easy for Tumblety to explain that it wasn't David Harold. But they still put him in prison for 2 to 3 weeks. When they did that, Tumblety was actually in St. Louis at the time, and he would, everywhere he went, he would really make a lot of money. And he claimed that the Army owed him $1 million. So what he did is, we have record of him with the British consulate, that he was going to the British consulate trying to get them to help him talk to the U.S. military, U.S. government to get his money back. And it wasn't working. So then he started taking trips to London, England. Mm-hmm. And then when he got there, he had a sister that still lived in Liverpool at the time. So then he would visit. And then what he would do is he would go to London and then try to convince them to help him out. So then he actually, in 1874, 75, he actually opened up a business, quack doctor business in Liverpool, England. And just like Canada, one of his patients died. Oh, no. So he had to sneak out of there. Mm-hmm. But what happened we saw from right into the early 1870s, he continued to hound the British government to get his money back. So that was the initial reason why he was going back and forth. But what happened was Tumblety loved the big cities and loved to hang out in the slums. So when he went to London, the slum of all slums was the Whitechapel district, the East End. So it's not a surprise. And actually, Tumblety admitted to the papers and also admitted to this young man in New Orleans that he was in Whitechapel during every single one of the Ripper murders. So, but that's why he was going back and forth. But by the time it was the later 1880s, that there was a pattern going on. So now what I did the question was if he truly was a serial killer, as in Jack the Ripper, mm-hmm. when he came back to America, were there any Ripper-like murders?
Right.
Well, that's when I started searching, and that's why I found 39 unsolved murders, neither rape nor rob, because Tumblety couldn't rape, and the motive wouldn't have been robbery, and 39 attempted murders and assaults. And that's what I write. It's like, and then just like you were talking about in Chicago, the devil's in the details. It's kind of stunning. And then next thing you know, I see this pattern of this tall man in a gray Ulster coat with a thick mustache. When Tumblety came back to America, he was wearing an Ulster coat. So, but this pattern. So if it was not Tumblety, and I cannot eliminate him, because in many cases he's in the area, he's in the town, mm-hmm. and but I'm convinced that I found one, maybe two, but definitely what a late 19th century serial killer that took advantage of the railways. And think about it, back then there was no FBI. If you were on a train stopped off at any location, murdered someone, got back on that train, and left, nobody was going to catch you. They
Right.
immediately blamed a boyfriend, a farmhand, or something,
Yep.
and it would have lasted a long time. And so I looked in the 1870s, and then I didn't see many, but starting in 1880, right at the time when I know Tumblety knew he had syphilis, and I'm thinking that would have been a trigger, I start seeing these strange murders. And then some of them will be fun to talk about because that it's quite stunning how it starts. So,
Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about the beginning of those murders. Where does it start?
well, what happened was is in 1880, Tumblety lost the court case in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
So he considered his home New York City, but he was a transient. He would take the train. He was only stay in a place for a couple of weeks, and then he would we'd take the train and go to another city. And so that pattern, it was an annual pattern too. And coincidentally, it matches these unsolved murders and assaults, which is really freaky. But what happened and what we have is that in about a month after he lost the court case to this woman, on the trains, if you are in Manhattan, when you get on Grand Central Station, the trains go northeast
Mm-hmm.
and they go through Connecticut. And there was a young 15-year-old woman that was murdered right near the tracks, Ripper style, as in she was mutilated, throat cut, and that a long knife was stuck in her side. Or
Jeez.
just a month after that. So I thought if there was a trigger, that would have been one of the cases. But what was even more interesting is the next year, this woman from Connecticut came to Manhattan, where Tumblety lived, looking specifically for a quack doctor, a Dr. Williams. So that quack, she said she stayed at a friend's house. She was pregnant. She wanted an abortion. So she was going to go to that doctor's office to have an abortion. Well, so the next evening, the friend, Mrs. Kennedy, said that, yeah, and the next morning she left, said that she was going to go to the doctor and have the abortion. Then she vanished. Well, what happened is a month or so later, they found her dismembered body in Long Island, right next to the train tracks. Her head was with the body, but not her organs.
Oh my
So
gosh.
if that woman, sadly, her name was Ella Clark, if you see where Mrs. Kennedy's residence was and that quack doctor's office, Tumblety's office, we know still had an office because the year before he was in a court case with that office, was closer to Mrs. Kennedy's house than that other quack doctor. So if she went back to that Dr. Thomas and he wasn't there and he actually had a solid alibi, he wasn't even in town.
Mm-hmm.
If she was still looking for somebody to give her an abortion. Tumblety was known. I actually got in trouble in Canada because of an abortion issue. So just think if that fly came into the web. So this woman comes into his office saying, hey, I don't want anybody to know this, but here's what I want. Well, oh my gosh. And what's happened is now, see, what happened was the police thought that her death was because of an abortion going awry. The doctor freaked out and dismembered the body and put it next to the train station. My problem with that is not that I'm a serial killer, but the only way to identify a person back then was your head, your face.
Okay.
And that head was part of the dismembered body. It was the organs that were missing. So here is, so if it was, that is, to me, is pretty stunning that here it is. She was looking for a quack doctor, and Tumblety's office was closer to Mrs. Kennedy's residence than the other quack doctor. And then it just kind of continues. And then I see a pattern throughout. So I can go. What's that?
Let me stop you right there, Michael, and ask you this. Okay, so Tumblety, and we're assuming this is Tumblety who does this, takes the organs, and I have to ask you this too. I assume the womb is missing off of her?
Well, that woman is. So,
okay, all right.
For sure.
Because you mentioned in the book that, and we've mentioned it here in this discussion, that Tumblety had a penchant for wanting to take the wombs of women and collect them. Did he state in any of his biographies why he did that?
Well, not in his biographies, but I know why. So there's a couple things. One is the year of the murders, January 1888, the Whitechapel murders,
Hmm.
Tumblety was interviewed in Toronto, and Tumblety says that he was constantly in dread of sudden death because of kidney and heart disease. Well, surprise, surprise, here's Jack the Ripper took the kidney and uterus from one woman, a uterus, and the heart. The only suspect that can be connected to those three organs is Tumblety,
Right.
is that he had the kidney and heart disease and that he had this penchant for the uterus. Well, what happened was is he in his autobiography talked about there is an elixir of health out there in the botanical world that could cure all and that he's going to find it. So he always said that, and he was always into the youthfulness. He even talked about one time that he didn't call it the elixir life, but everlast. I forget the name, but it was basically the same thing.
Okay.
But what happened was is his boyfriend in 1875 was Sir Henry Hall Caine, the famous Sir Henry Hall Caine,
Okay.
and in England. But what happened was the best friend of Sir Henry Hall Caine was Bram Stoker. Bram Stoker
Ah.
was actually the business agent at the Lyceum Theatre in London, and at that time. So what happened was is not Bram Stoker, but the employees at at the Lyceum Theater, they started the Order of Golden Dawn, this Masonic group.
Mhm.
Their primary goal was to look for the Philosopher's Stone, which was the elixir of life. And then so that was that was actually a scientific challenge for scientists is, if we can increase health, maybe we can get, something to extend life longer. So it was not just a guesswork.
Yeah.
But here's Tumblety having a passion for the elixir, and there was a report that an eminent engineer went to Scotland Yard and said that he knows who Jack the Ripper is. It was a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type person. During the day, he's a prominent physician. At night, he's a medical maniac looking for the elixir of life, mixing herbs with the fluids in the uterus. Tumblety was an herb doctor,
Hmm.
and there was a report that Tumblety had actually a herbal store next to the Whitechapel Road. So, I mean, it's like all these coincidences and connections. So, and I see that. So, what happens though is the other cool thing is that that was in 1893. He actually put in his new autobiography that there is he admits that there's no such thing as an elixir of life.
Really?
Well, that's when his neurosyphilis was really kicking in. Then he started just wearing. Here's a millionaire, and he was just wearing slum clothes for the rest of his life. But what happened was, is 1900, his his Baltimore. He had attorneys in every city. His Baltimore attorney said that he would come in and he would have a flask of brown stuff, and he'd keep on drinking that flask of brown stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, that sounds like an elixir to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and he claimed that he could cure all things, and so it's like all these connections. So my belief is that at the time of those murders, that's one of the reasons why. Now, at first, during he was collecting organs because that was showed that he was a surgeon.
Hmm.
But then, when in 1880, when he started realizing that he had syphilis, and even though he claimed that he could cure syphilis, nobody could. There was no antibiotics at the time.
Yeah.
So that he was trying pretty much anything he could do. So it continued. So I think there was that going on.
Now, Michael, can we throw a little conjecture in here and think that maybe the syphilis had driven him so mad that he thought by making this elixir of whatever he was making it out of, that he thought he was curing himself of the syphilis through this elixir?
Let's see. One more time. I'm sorry. I just
Sure.
got interrupted.
No problem. So do you think that maybe through making this elixir, he thought he was curing himself of the syphilis when he really wasn't? That really the syphilis had driven him mad?
Well, the syphilis driving him mad is definitely true. Meaning, what happened is the tertiary stage of syphilis. One type is neurosyphilis,
Mm-hmm.
and back then they called it paresis or paralysis of the insane. And in his 1893 autobiography, an expert at paresis he started hanging out with actually in 1886.
Mm-hmm.
So he started hanging out with a neurosurgeon, basically. And then so that right there does affect your brain. So, was there anything that's affecting the brain? I do believe that would have been affecting the brain a bit because by the time in the mid 1890s, he no longer, he would, during the day, he would wear really nice clothes,
Hmm.
expensive clothes, and at night, he would dress down, as he called it.
Hmm.
But I had a neighbor in of his in Rochester say about the mid 1890s when she saw him again. Couple nights he went in good clothes, and then a couple nights he would go out in Rochester in really dirty clothes.
Hmm.
So he was kind of mixing both back and forth. So, so I think but I because in the 1893 autobiography it basically says there is no elixir of life again. So right around that time, I think he finally admitted, he probably did the big search in the late 1880s,
Yeah.
and and then it didn't work. Now, but if you look at some of the research of syphilis, even though it wasn't until the 19th century that they found a cure, there were things that would actually extend your life or actually put it in remission. One thing is hot mineral springs, and Hot Springs, Arkansas, was the mecca for syphilis patients. And what they said was that actually did help
Okay.
put it in a state, like so it was kind of effective. So Tumblety changed his lifestyle from having offices to going to mineral. Saratoga Springs, New York, he would always go to.
Hmm.
Hot Springs, everywhere he'd go. Bath, England. I mean, he went to these places because he had a niece that lived in Bath as well. So,
Okay.
but yeah, so
Interesting. So I'm sorry, I had cut you off. We had talked about that first case where he had, and you were going to continue on into some of the more interesting cases that he had.
well, there was multiple cases. One the
Okay.
next year, though, in
Yes.
Boston.
Hmm.
This is actually quite interesting. So there was a woman that she in the morning she went out to get some milk or eggs or something. And when she was coming back, this tall man in an Ulster coat, it didn't say gray Ulster coat this time, but an Ulster coat,
Hmm.
followed her back. And actually, a man across the street saw this man grab something and slam her right into the head and knocked her out. And then he stabbed that woman inside her own house. So then he started, but the man didn't see that part. He just saw the
Hmm.
tall man attacker, started walking down the street. So then he followed this man. And so then he saw two police officers at the corner, and the man walked right by him, turned left. So when he got to this witness got to those police and said, that man just attacked a woman. So then they followed him. And when he got to an overpass, which was a train overpass, he vanished. Well, I got the map. And if you look, that train goes right to a train station to the east. What happened was within that hour, they went to that train station. A tall man in an Ulster coat tried to get a ticket to New York City.
Hmm.
And Tumblety lived in New York City. So that just happened. And then the next year in Boston, it happened again. Same methodology. All I could get out of that was a large man. But what was interesting is there were a couple things. One is that when Tumblety was, I'm going to kind of skip because there was
Sure.
a pattern
Sure.
going on, but
Hmm.
with the Whitechapel murders, when he came back December 2nd, that the December 3rd, well, the two police officers, New York City police officers, were waiting for him because Scotland Yard contacted him. And they knew him by face.
Okay.
So then they followed him, but a Scotland Yard detective followed him too. And they went to his residence, 79 East 10th Street. Well, two reporters from New York World, one in New York World, one in New York Herald, were trying to interview this detective and they wouldn't get interviewed. So they actually interviewed the bartenders because the detective was getting drunk all the time. And the bartender said that, yeah, this guy came over to get the guy that did it, the Whitechapel murders. And he's pointing at Tumblety's window. Well, what happened is that made the papers in December 4th. Well, Tumblety vanished from New York City. So but what happened is thanks to the old newspapers getting archived nowadays in newspapers.com, this Waterloo, New York, a small town, they archived their newspapers. And what do you know? It says, hey, Francis Tumbley's in town. Well, that was a red flag for me because I knew his sister lived in Waterloo, New York.
Hmm.
And what happened was, is in 1880 or 1881, he had molested a young man in Toronto, and so he sneaked off to Waterloo. And I knew that because Thomas Powderly was his nephew, only 5 years his junior, and said that under oath that that Tumblety would come to our house when he got in trouble. So, well, then what happened was the reporter of Waterloo said something strange. He goes, and why he even commented, he says there was a woman at night that was attacked. She was throttled by the neck. And if you look at the Whitechapel murders, two of the women, you knew that they were choked first before their throats were cut.
Hmm.
So they could have called him Jack the Strangler. So she was attacked, but she got away. And so that made the papers. And so the reporter suspected it was Tumblety. Well, then what happened was is 5 days later in New York and Chicago, which we were talking about,
Yep.
that this lady was on a cable car and she saw this tall man in a gray ulster coat with I think that was the derby hat, but a thick mustache on that train. She didn't think anything much of it, but when she got off, then she started walking the tracks. That guy attacked her, grabbed her by the throat, so she was screaming and fighting, and then he threatened her, but she still got away, and she saw a couple people, track workers on the tracks,
Hmm.
train tracks,
Hmm.
and then he shot at her. We know I have two accounts where Tumblety was carrying a revolver, but so then, so what you know, I get a newspaper article about Tumblety's in Chicago. I mean, Tumblety could have been anywhere. He's reported to be in Chicago.
Yeah.
So then what happened was that was 18 just after the Ripper murders. Well, that tall man in a gray ulster coat. What I found in Buffalo, New York, where I live here, is that in 1886 there was a rash of attacks of these women walking the streets by a tall man in a gray ulster coat with the collar up, and that's what happened also in Chicago. And the guy grabs her by the throat and drops her down, and the lady's struggling, takes out a revolver and points it at her face and says, "You keep on doing it, I'm gonna shoot." Well, then a guy interrupted, and so then he ran away. So even though they didn't say mustache, doesn't mean that he didn't have a mustache. But this happened 3 times, and these women got away. So then I keep on going. This tall man, gray ulster coat, keeps on going throughout. Here's another one in St. Louis, and that's where Tumblety actually died. And he used to go to St. Louis once or twice a year.
Okay.
And in St. Louis, there was a streetwalker, this Ella Kid King, as they called her.
Hmm.
And what happened is eyewitnesses saw it was nighttime. This tall man with a gray coat, didn't say ulcer, but a gray coat, sliced her abdomen, and her organs are starting to pop out. And
Oh.
so she's screaming, "This man's attacking me!" Well, they immediately arrested the boyfriend, live-in friend, who was a tall man in a gray coat, wear a gray coat, but he had a solid alibi. But this was actually the place again where Tumblety would hang out. So it's very, tall man again, gray coat, and then, but that's just a couple of them. I just keep on finding these. So do I see that it's exactly him and that he was arrested? Not necessarily. I don't have that, but here it is. Of all these 39 unsolved murders that I can't eliminate him, or he was in the area in like New Jersey. Here's a woman, Mary Anderson, that was murdered right on the tracks on the 9th.
Hmm.
I think it was 9th of December. And then no, the 8th of December.
Okay.
And so 2nd December, he is in Philly taking the train, which goes right through that Rahway, New Jersey.
Hmm.
And then New York Herald says that he goes to New York Herald, "I will be in your office in New York City on December 10th. That means he was at the crime scene, even though if it was not him, because that woman was murdered right on the tracks, and she was throat cut.
Jeez.
So we know that Tumblety was in that area. So I mean, we just keep on finding these things like this, or I do. And then, but even if he murdered only one of these women, these 70 or 39,
Yeah.
he's a Jack the Ripper suspect. He's a killer of women, and he's a Jack the Ripper suspect.
Hmm.
So to me, it's like, yes, he's one of the suspects, and here it is. Scotland Yard took him seriously, and he fits the pattern of a serial killer. And now I'm finding all these other things. It's kind of like that Golden State Killer. They would have never caught him without DNA.
Right.
And then they realize all these other different assaults and murders and rapes were from him.
Mhm.
He would have went to the grave without that.
Yeah.
Or these long haul trucker serial killers. It took 2 decades for the FBI to realize that these women were being murdered. And then it was kind of like the similar pattern. He was the railway murderer kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, it seems like in every serial killer's, I don't want to say life or life expectancy, or in their career, we'll put it that way, in their career of killing, there comes a point where the killer slips up or makes a fatal mistake and they're caught and they get sloppy. And a lot of it is fatigue. A lot of it is kind of a braggadocious moment, or ego gets in the way and they think that they can't be touched. So they're not as careful as they normally are. They take less precaution. Is there a point in there in these 39 different women where you see that Tumblety isn't as careful, where he could have been caught?
When I'm looking at it, let's say, for example, he was doing this and he really had a great idea, taking advantage of the railroad track, a railroad. And so that right there automatically puts him kind of out of the picture.
Okay.
So what I see more of is, if you look at serial killers, sometimes they stop killing, like the BTK killer.
Right.
But what they do is they still have that urge, and so they'll do what they call non-homicidal fantasy activities. So he would dress himself up as, like being tortured and take pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So what I see Tumblety, I do see a stop in these mysterious, they call them mysterious murders. But then there was this thing called like Jack the Tripper, where just after the Ripper murders in New York City, in Washington Square, this tall man, well-dressed man that was wearing diamonds, and Tumblety used to wear a diamond pin,
Okay.
would walk with this umbrella. And I have a report of Tumblety always walking with an umbrella, even if it wasn't raining. So when a woman would walk by, he would trip them. They would fall on their face and he'd run away. So the police called him Jack the Tripper. So then, though, I start getting these other ones where here it is. He's getting older in the late 1890s. So I see less of the murders, more of the assaults. And there was one case, a couple cases. This is the meanest man around, is what the article said. Is this woman was walking the streets at night, and what happened was this tall elderly man came up to him, sprayed something in her eyes, and it was a mixture of cayenne pepper and metal shavings.
Oh,
I mean, that's to do permanent damage.
yeah.
So then I even have Jack the Clipper articles where a tall man in a gray Ulster coat, I can't believe I get this tall man in a gray Ulster coat again, grabs these women and cuts the hair off and runs away.
What?
So, if there was a case of non-homicidal activities, those would probably be it. So, but kind of like if you look at that Golden State Killer, he just stopped.
Yeah.
And then he never got caught. And then so the other thing is that it's almost possibly a bias when we see that serial killers may eventually get caught, but how many never got caught, we'll never know.
Sure.
So like there could be a lot more out there, especially in the 19th century. I mean, here it is. And also, I only dealt with the unsolved murders. If there was a case where a woman, a young man or man was convicted, you know how many wrongful convictions there even are today.
Yeah.
But there were a couple cases where I'm convinced that person didn't do it, but I stuck to my guns and I decided not to put that in there. So, but I'd seen that as well. But right here it is, 1900. I'm thinking he dies in 1903, so should be done. Well, what happened was in Jackson, in Texas, Jefferson, Texas, there was this young woman that was partying with these two men at their house. She passes out. So the two men, they play a joke. They drag her to the train station, put her in the waiting room, and put a sticker on her that says, "Take me to San Antonio." So they're giggling, laughing, they leave. The next morning, she's mutilated.
Oh, no.
So she's mutilated. And so what I found out was that a week later in Galveston, Texas, which was like the next big train stop, Tumblety was in that hurricane. There was a major hurricane there. Tumblety's one of the victims. He survived it. He's within a week of that murder, And if you look at that train, Jefferson, Texas, it's in between Hot Springs and Galveston. So it's like, I could see him not doing it anymore. But now, if he stops this, it was the middle of the night,
Yeah.
and he sees this passed out woman. Oh, what a choice! So so it was. So it keeps on going.
I suppose if it's if she's defenseless and it's an easy target for him, why wouldn't he take advantage? I mean, especially if he's elderly and there's not going to be any fight.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's the interesting thing. Again, this guy is a Jack the Ripper suspect. And that is just like, I just can't eliminate him from these. And I could eliminate him from the others, but not this one.
Right.
These.
Yeah. It's fascinating stuff, Michael. And, I think in the time that we've done this program, I've probably... there's probably been 5 or 6 different people we've talked about as being a suspect for Jack the Ripper, but I don't think there's anything as strong as Tumblety. That's for sure.
Well, I think what happens is when Tumblety was brought up in the 1990s, a lot of the experts already wrote their books, but like he didn't fit the mold, and so there was a lot of pushback. By the time I got there, it was actually that a lot of the experts ignored him again.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I was looking at this, and I decided to research him first because I live next to Rochester where he's buried, and I found his gravesite.
Okay.
So and every stone I unturned is like damning. So who would have known that? He said all streetwalkers should be disemboweled before the Ripper murders.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kept on going, and so. But you still get the case where, I am friends with all these other experts,
mm-hmm.
and what I say is I'm not 100% for sure. So if
mm-hmm.
and anytime you're ever 100% for sure, your research is done.
Yeah.
Now you're looking for stuff to support you, and so that's where the bias comes in. So I try not to do that, but like I do like some other suspects. So there is a possibility. There are a lot that I don't, but it's not because of Tumblety. It's because Scotland Yard didn't look at him for a reason, or something happened that if you can look at it, you can see definitely the biased research, something like that. But I welcome the research. One of the things I like to do is when I write my journals, my articles in the journals, it's for the experts, and so the experts I get to rip them apart. And so my research is based on them already ripping it apart. And that's to me, that's right there is kind of a peer review, if they're in a way.
Sure.
So it's not. So that's where now when I present it, that's it's open arms for anybody. I want somebody to rip me apart to see if I'm biased, and
mm-hmm.
so I welcome
mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, I tell you, we've got a link in the description of this program. I encourage you to read the book and try to rip it apart. That's the best thing to do. Dr. Francis Tumblety and the Railway Ripper is the name of the book. Like I said, we have a link in the description of this program. And I'm sure Michael encourages you to try and rip it apart as well, and to weigh in and give your reviews as well. Right now, it's getting 5 stars on Amazon, so people are loving it. That's for sure.
Great.
Michael L. Hawley is our guest and the author. Michael, I wish you the best of success with this book.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Folks, it's time now for us to lighten things up a bit. It's time now for us to bring in Beer City Bruiser and Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time once again, the time you've all been looking forward to. It's time for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals, and for that we need a co-host. You have your host here, but you need a co-host. We bring in the co-host with the most, the BCB, the Big Cuddly Bear, Beer City Bruiser. How you doing, Bruiser?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic.
That's
doing as well as a kiss from the rose. on the grave.
No, don't say that. No, don't remind me of that. By the way, people have been needling me lately. They're just needling. They're getting in there. I knew the Vikes were going to lose on Sunday. I'm telling you that.
You said it. Yeah, you said it.
Yeah, you don't have to remind me of that. I knew it was going to happen. I could have told you. It's Kirk Cousins. It's a Thursday night. And they're like, but he had all those yards, Tim. He threw so well. He's such a good thrower. No.
Oh, he did fantastic for my son's fantasy team.
Oh, I'm sure. It's because he had his receivers jumping high and to the left to catch those balls all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. He ain't that great. I don't care if other teams want him. Trade him.
I think the universe was telling me I gotta rib you a little bit because I heard Kiss from the Rose about a dozen times this weekend on the radio.
Are you serious?
Not on my playlist, just on a radio. I was at the gym the other day, and I'm doing my cardio because that's all I can do. I was cleared, by the way, to do the elliptical, which is amazing.
Very good. Yeah.
And I'm on there, and I forgot my headphones at home. And it's the worst when you got to listen to the gym music. It's the worst. But for some reason, Friday night, it was on point. I got there, and it started with some Backstreet Boys. I'm like, okay, I can get behind this. Then it followed up with some Motley Crue, and then right away, bam, 2 songs by our boy Seal.
Oh,
and I was just giggling. I was having such a good time. The lady next to me goes, you really enjoy cardio. I go, I hate it.
Aren't there only 2 songs by Seal? I mean, it's Crazy and Kiss from a Rose. That's it. That's all he has.
I said, I hate cardio. I says, but I love one of my best friends, and this song is kind of our song. And she goes, well, that's sweet. I go, he doesn't think so.
No! It's horrible. I'd rather be waterboarded by the Korean government.
Yeah, and then driving to the hardware store, Ziggy and I were going, and the song came on. She thought I was weird because I was singing it as loud as I could.
She tried to cover her ears?
Yeah, it was just, it was like just the universe telling me, hey, when you record with the Cruiser, telling me you feel like a kiss from the rose on the grave.
Oh, God, thanks for that. Oh. That's a small crime committed against humanity. Speaking of dumb crimes and stupid criminals, today we've got the interesting stories. We don't have anything that's, I don't want to say laugh out loud funny, just 1 or 2 stories that's laugh out loud funny. All of these are ironic crimes today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, real ironic or Alanis Morissette ironic, which is actually just coincidence.
Subtle, ironic, coincident. Some of them tragic, but they're laughable.
Okay.
One at the end of the program will get you laughing.
Okay.
Yeah. But we'll start off in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Why not?
Oh, good old Packer country.
That's right. Unfortunately, they had a little bit of a letdown.
Well, it showed how green love is because they were playing great.
Yeah.
And they got that comfortable lead.
Yep.
And that's a problem when you get a rookie. Now, I don't want to call him a rookie. He's not, but a new quarterback.
New quarterback. Yeah.
And especially a new quarterback that's dealing with a new coaching staff. Mm-hmm. And you get that comfortable lead, and then all of a sudden your comfortable lead becomes not so comfortable because you got comfortable. And then on defense, we lost 2 key guys. We lost that rookie, Van Ness, who went out with a shoulder. Yep. And it showed. Yep. It was like, all right, I'm not mad. It was a great game. Atlanta, the last 2 games, Atlanta did not deserve to win.
No. Atlanta did not play well. That's the thing. It was Green Bay's game to lose.
Yeah, and they did. It was them that lost it. Ritter was a decent quarterback. He wasn't great. He wasn't bad. Yeah. Typical rookie. Yeah. Yep. The Robinson, the rookie running back, he was okay.
He is something else, though, boy.
He's the next. Yeah. I think he's the offensive version of Micah Parsons.
Yeah. He's the
new Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, he's a beast. That's for sure. That's for sure. We go to Green Bay, or parts around Green Bay. We're in Elkhorn. This is the irony. The first irony story I'm going to bring out. I'll preface it with this, Bruiser. Sometimes you have to be aware of what your name is or what you name your business, because you'll be looked at and scrutinized heavily.
Yeah, there's a business out here called Trump's Tulips.
Trump's Tulips.
Nothing to do with the former president.
Okay.
And I remember just looking at my wife going, "Once you change your name, like, you know what I mean? Like, After everything that happened, whether you like them or hate them, wouldn't you change it?
You got to be careful what happens, what comes out of those tulips. That's all. So this Elkhorn wholesale dealer, they wholesale cars, has had their license revoked. Okay. They've been accused of violating state law. Now, let me get a little bit further into this and tell you why this is so funny. Okay. A wholesale dealer in Walworth County has had its license revoked after state officials reportedly found them violating state law. According to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, Goodfellas Auto Sales had its wholesale dealer license revoked by the state of Wisconsin. The dealer reportedly failed to properly follow administrative requirements. Well, what was Goodfellas Auto Sales doing, Bruiser? Well,
I'm wondering.
The order, which was issued by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation's Division of Motor Vehicles, determined that Goodfellas Auto Sales violated state law. The release mentions that the dealers sold motor vehicles directly to consumers. They then rolled back odometers on vehicles and falsified title documents.
Of course they did, because God knows why they didn't get in the sanitation business.
That's right. So if you name your auto wholesaler division Goodfellas, you should probably be on the up and up with everything you do there, right?
If I'm a cop and I see it's Goodfellas, whatever, even if they're doing nothing illegal, I'm still keeping an eye on it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's,
you know what I mean? Like, hey.
You're like, hey, why did you name your outfit Goodfellas? Maybe we should keep an eagle eye on you to see if anything happens. Now, the department immediately revoked the licensee effective on June 23rd, 2023, and the decision was upheld during a hearing back on August 4th of this year. Dealers are reportedly given 30 days to appeal a revocation, but officials say that Goodfellas Auto Sales, believe it or not, did not appeal, and the decision is final. So they knew they were guilty.
Yeah. They watched Ferris Bueller's one too many times, I think. See, that's the problem. Is they watch Ferris Bueller, then they watch some Goodfellas, they watch some Sopranos. They're like, oh, we can do this in Green Bay. Why not?
Well, evidently they got caught with their hand on the odometer, so to speak. So there you go.
Well, Dillinger used to go up to Appleton all the time, which is up by Green Bay, and that's where that famous shootout was at the hotel, which you can still go to and see the bullet holes.
Yeah. Yep. And there's some of those bullet holes up at the Wabasha Street Caves in St. Paul.
See?
Yeah.
So the mob influence is still there, I guess.
Yes.
Even though the mob's not a thing anymore.
Well, yes,
I mean, it is,
no.
but it's not like it was in the 80s.
No, not like that. Yeah. We move on. We're going to California. By the way, want to thank our listeners for sending us in stories as well for Dumb Crimes, Stupid Criminals. If you have one, just send it to tim@darknessradio.com, just like this listener did. A California woman has set fire to a Target as a distraction to steal baby formula. Now, baby formula isn't as rare as it was during the pandemic. You remember during the pandemic, it was hard to get hold of baby formula.
Well, it's still expensive.
It is expensive.
It is very expensive.
Right. But it's still plentiful on shelves.
It is. I think this more goes along the lines with cost. Because it is. Right. I remember with my kids, diapers and baby formula were the ones that we were spending a lot of money on.
Oh, yeah.
And it's stuff you need.
Yeah, you do. You definitely need it. A woman who intentionally set a fire inside a Target store in Southern California last week did so as a diversion to steal baby formula, according to police. The September 5th blaze set by 40-year-old Cynthia Torres at the retail chain's Buena Park location resulted in $500,000 in damages.
Ooh.
Yeah, and a loss of $1 million in retail losses.
Ooh.
That all happened.
Set fire to the electronics section or what?
No. It all happened mostly due to water and smoke damage.
Okay, from the fire department. Gotcha.
Or
they don't care.
Or the sprinklers inside the store.
Yeah, that's true.
What people don't realize is when you start a fire just in one part of the store, the entire sprinkler system goes off.
Yeah, it's the whole store goes to protect everything. You're right.
Yep. The fire started around 7:15 p.m. and officers with the Buena Park Police Department and the Orange County Fire Authority responded and extinguished the flames. The fire reached the store's ceiling after burning. Said the blaze was purposefully set and meant to be a distraction while Torres stole baby formula. She was arrested on Tuesday. Authorities have not released additional details about the case, including the specific charges against her. Torres is being held in the Orange County Jail on $250,000 bail. According to jail records, she is scheduled to appear in court on Thursday.
So she set the fire on the same target that she intended to steal from, huh?
Yeah.
That's ballsy.
That is, yeah. That takes...
Because you don't know how fast that fire is going to take over the whole thing, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, the idea, I guess, is to set the fire, grab the formula, and run.
Which, that formula is behind that locked plexiglass. You got to set the fire, break the lock, grab the formula, avoid everybody that's running around because, you know, you're going to have employees running around. Eventually, you have police and fire there, and then get out.
Or maybe what it is once you get the cabinet open, you're hoping that you'll have another accomplice that wants baby formula as much as you do. So therefore, you're gaining accomplices at the same time.
So you're just yelling all the single mothers out there like, hey, come on, let's go.
Now I have Beyonce in my head. Oh, the single mommies. Oh, the single mommies. Come and get some formula.
That wasn't a fire. That was a beacon to single moms.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Hey, mommies, there's formula in aisle 5. It's free.
Instead of the bat signal, it's a tit signal. So
oh,
like, hey, breast milk right here.
The tit signal. You know what? I would probably respond to that. And I'm not even.
Too. If I would show up, you're like, oh, somebody said boobs?
Yeah. See, that might be the wrong signal. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It should be like a baby bottle. There you go.
You'd get a bunch of horny guys with ones that would show up.
Yeah, and if you put a baby bottle up there, then you just get the weird ones that want to dress up like babies and be coddled.
Yeah. So there's really not a good signal to put up in the air. Yeah.
No, there's not.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let's move on. Okay, so this is a dumb crime, stupid criminals classic.
Okay.
We're still in California, of course, and it has to do with a daytime home invasion. Now, when you go to do a home invasion, first thing you should probably do is scout out the neighborhood.
Oh, exactly.
You know, you want
to get the schedule down, see what the neighbors are doing, any delivery trucks, any work going on, all that, yeah.
And you want to know who the neighbors are.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. You don't want to run into any unforeseen circumstances that might trip you up.
On OP Live, they had one where they were called to an assault and possible burglary, and they show up, and what it was is a couple had gotten into an argument with somebody, and they are chasing them. Mm-hmm. The somebody was the daughter of an off-duty deputy. So they show up to the house. The deputy answers the door with a gun going, "Can I help you?" Oops, our bad.
Well, you're kind of swinging down that fairway, so to speak.
Okay.
When you talk about that. This daytime home invasion in South LA led to a police shooting and one suspect injured. But it turns out that the suspects in this didn't really take into consideration the neighborhood they were in and where they were robbing. 4 suspects were taken into custody Friday afternoon after they broke into a home in South Los Angeles, prompting a large response from police that resulted in a shooting. Why the large response, you may ask? Well, the victim called 911 around noon to report the intruders. Police said the suspects tied him up as they made their way through the home. Officers quickly responded to the scene and were able to apprehend 2 of the suspects. A third suspect, who was armed with a hammer, according to police, jumped from the roof of the building. He was shot by police shortly after.
He's just having a bad day.
He is. Police said he remains hospitalized in critical condition. The 4th suspect had an even worse day as he was caught by a canine officer.
Oh.
Yeah. To do such an act, I highly doubt this is the first time that they've done this, said LAPD Captain Kelly Munoz. We're lucky that they made that choice because we can take these people off of the streets and not have any more people victimized. It's unclear if the victim was seriously injured. Police said it doesn't look like he knows any of the suspects. The incident remains under investigation. Anyone with information is urged to contact authorities. Now, how did the police get there so quickly?
This is what I'm curious about. What does the neighborhood have to do with it?
Well, it turns out that the police shop is just a few doors down.
Oops. Hey, if we rob close to them, maybe they won't come because they're out and about.
So they got a very good police response because they didn't have to go very far.
I had a student come into the training center, and on the training center, you can see the police station, like a substation from where we're at. And the kid kept telling me, "This makes me feel very uncomfortable." I'm like, why would it make you feel uncomfortable? Like, do I need to worry?
Yeah. Evidently, no background check to the
No. Like, if I'm thinking of robbing places, I'm going to go find where the police station is and go furthest away from there, so it takes them even longer to get there.
That's funny. So let me ask you this, Bruiser. Now, if you've got a plan to do something for the day, like it's just you and some buddies, okay?
Okay.
And, a couple of the buddies say, you know what? We're out. We don't really feel like doing that. Do you put on the peer pressure? Are you like, come on, this is going to be great. We're going to do this. Or do you just go, you know what? If you're not in, you're not in. What type of guy are you? It
depends what it is. I've been both. I've been the guy like, oh, come on, this is great. We can do it. And I've also been the guy like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Let's just go drink beer instead. Mm-hmm. So it depends on the situation.
Okay. Now, what's the most, I don't want to say violent, but what's the most adamant you've been about getting the boys together? Like, come on, come on, let's do this. How adamant have you been about it?
Crashing a wedding.
Really?
Yeah, we did a wrestling show, and it was an outdoor show, and there had been a wedding party. Wedding had happened. The reception was next door, and all the guests from the wedding that were at the reception had come around the fence for the wrestling show. Mm-hmm. Now, it's the fence, where the fence was, you didn't have to pay to get into the wrestling show.
Okay.
So I was like, well, wait a minute. If they're going to watch our show for free, we should be able to go over there and party for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's even, right?
Yeah.
So I got all the boys in the locker room, and this is what we're doing, guys. We're just going to go over. We're going to act like we belong there. We're going to drink all the beer we can. We're going to eat all the food we can. And then when they kick us out, they kick us out. And we went over there, and at first there was a little bit of pushback, and then, we kind of explained to them why we were there. And next thing you know, we're watching some of the guys dance with the bride and having a good time.
There you go. See?
So, yeah. I thought that was justified. They watched us for free.
Sure.
We should get something out of it.
That's right. At least wedding cake. Why not?
Exactly.
Wedding cake and a beer.
Any.
You didn't?
Yeah. Nope. I got the beer though. Couldn't get to the wedding cake. I couldn't even get to the food. I was being cut off by people.
Oh, jeez. See, that's no fair. They should have at least fed you and got you a little piece of cake and maybe a beer. I mean, that's...
Yeah, but I was young too, so beer was okay.
Yeah, beer's fine. That's fine. Well, there's a convicted teen who evidently didn't like the fact that his fellow, let's just say convicts, didn't want to get in on a score with him.
Okay.
So he got mad. Let me tell you. Okay. Let me tell you how mad he got, because the prosecutor said he went a little bit too far. We go to Warner Robins, Georgia, where a 19-year-old from Bonaire has learned his sentence after being convicted for a crime that he committed at the age of 17. Eric Chauncey Hardy Jr. Oh, I can just see him being beat up for that name right there.
I was going to say that's not a good name to have in prison.
No. Was tried in the Superior Court of Houston County, where he was found guilty on 3 counts of aggravated assault after a 5-day jury trial. What did he do? Well, here's what he did. Prosecutors argued that Hardy and his co-defendant, Jordan Hamilton, went to a home in Warner Robins on May 3rd of 2022 to try and get multiple juvenile victims who live there to join them in a robbery. When the minors rejected the invitation, prosecutors said Hardy and Hamilton entered the house with a loaded handgun and extended clip. One of the victims pulled out his own handgun, and the 2 groups entered a shootout. So you're coming with me to rob this place, or I'm going to shoot you.
Oh, yeah, we're not going with you, and I'm going to shoot you.
Exactly. Hardy was shot in the face.
Oh!
Yeah, he was the only person injured in this shooting.
Which is just karma coming back at you. That's God saying, look, kid, they said no.
Warner Robins police say Hardy and Hamilton then fled the scene and were confronted by law enforcement at a nearby business. They say the 2 lied about their involvement in the shooting and claimed that they were victims of a drive-by.
Yeah, this bullet hole in my face, nothing to do with what you're talking about. Totally random.
However, the juvenile victim who shot Hardy turned himself and his handgun into police and fully cooperated with the investigation. Hamilton.
You take the handgun out of that situation, that sounds like a good, upstanding young minor.
It does, right?
Yeah.
I got the guy who was going to do a robbery.
Yeah. But because he had a handgun, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
You're still scum, but you're not as scummy as this guy.
Right. Hamilton also admitted he was involved and pleaded guilty prior to the trial. Now, Hardy was sentenced to 40 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they take him seriously down there in Georgia.
Yeah.
The first 16 will be served in prison, and the remaining 24 will be served on probation. Simply put, there are consequences for actions, District Attorney William M. Kendall said. Now the defendant in this case will spend his 20s in prison calculating the cost of his actions. Not only that, but he got a bullet to the face on top of it.
I was going to say, kid just needs to learn no.
Yeah. No means no, evidently, Mr. Hardy.
There's got to be other hoodlums out there, man. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But you know what? We found out there's a Yelp for hitman. There's got to be a Yelp for heists.
There has to be.
Like we found out a couple weeks ago. There's a Yelp for hitmen.
Yeah,
there's got to be a Yelp for heists.
Well, they made a deal out of it on Law and Order.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you said that we were right because they confirmed it on Law and Order.
That's right. They confirmed it on Law and Order. There was a website where you could hire a hitman. So there has to be a Yelp for a hitman. Yeah.
Yeah, or a crew. Maybe that's what crews are us. Come get your bank robbery crew here.
All right. I have a question for you here, Bruiser. This next story begs the question, how good is Little Caesars pizza?
I haven't had it in a while.
Yeah?
I think the last time I had it was when I was in Kansas.
Okay.
It was okay. I was hungry. It's not the greatest pizza in the world, but I don't think it's the worst.
Is it good enough to wield a gun over?
No, it's not.
No?
No.
Okay.
If I don't got $5 to go get a pizza, then I got a problem.
Okay. Well, a man has pled to an AK-47 threat over a Little Caesars pizza.
Who is carrying around an AK-47? Like, come on. I know guys that own them, but they own them just for the pure fact to say they own them. You know what I mean? Like, it's part of their collection. They don't drive around with them in their car.
I'll show you a picture of the man right here.
Your video's frozen. I won't be able to see the picture.
Oh, you can't see me?
No, you're stuck.
Am I John Cena right now? You can't see me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yikes. That's not good. All right. Well, I'll show you a picture later.
Okay.
A Tennessee man has pleaded guilty to pointing an AK-47 rifle at a Little Caesars employee because his $6 pepperoni pizza was taking too long to cook.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
You want it hot and ready. That's the whole slogan of Little Caesars is hot and ready.
Well, evidently, it's too long to cook.
It's too long. Okay, yeah.
Too long, yeah.
5 minutes it takes to cook.
Yeah. In a plea deal, 64-year-old Charles Doty agreed last month to cop to his dangerous gunplay at a restaurant in Knoxville. Doty
Man is 64 years old and has no patience. Come on. I found that I don't know about you, but I get a little more patient the older I get just because less stuff bugs me.
That's true. Yeah. Although
if I got there and they're like, oh, it'll be a couple minutes because we have to cook it, I'll be like, okay, whatever. I'll sit down.
Although there are some people, as they get older, they get more ornery, and I think it's because they know that they don't have as much time as they used to have.
True. This guy probably just got out of the doctor's office.
Probably. In a plea deal, 64-year-old Charles Doty agreed last month to cop to his dangerous gunplay at a restaurant in Knoxville. Doty, who is charged with multiple felony counts, is scheduled to be sentenced on September 29th after pleading guilty to 4 aggravated assault counts. As a result of Doty's blind plea, the length and manner of service of the sentence will be solely determined by a criminal court judge, according to a prosecution spokesperson. Police say Doty became incensed after being told that his pizza would take 10 minutes to prepare. A whole 10 minutes, Bruiser.
10 minutes.
Yes.
He's the guy that there was, remember back in the day, you had the 30 minutes or less, or it's free.
Yeah.
It's because of this guy.
That's right. It's because of this guy. When Doty was told it would take 10 minutes to prepare, he demanded a free order of Little Caesars Crazy Bread before briefly leaving the restaurant, which is about 5 miles from his residence.
Oh, gosh.
He really couldn't wait 10 minutes.
He's 5 miles from home too. Like, no problem, man.
Yeah.
Next time, call it. You know what? Here, dude. Next, not that you're never going to go into Little Caesars again because you're probably banned for life, but pick up the phone. Hey, I want to order this pizza. I'll be there in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then go.
Yeah. When Doty returned to Little Caesars, he was carrying an AK-47, which he first pointed at a female worker who was on her first day on the job.
Oh.
Yeah, I think she probably quit after that. While demanding his order. When another employee sought to leave the restaurant, cops report Doty asked where in the hell he thought he was going.
Your shift's done? Where are you going? I don't got my pizza yet. Get back there and make it faster.
The staffer then went to a back room and dialed 911. That's where he was going.
Okay.
Yeah. In a bid to get Doty to leave Little Caesars, a female customer who had received her order handed him her own pepperoni pie. Doty then fled the restaurant before Knoxville Police Department officers arrived. Doty was subsequently arrested and charged with aggravated kidnapping and aggravated assault. In a TV interview following the November 2021 bust, the worker who had the AK-47 pointed at her said she was shocked at Doty's overreaction to a minor wait for a pizza. Referring to a Little Caesars slogan, she noted, "We're not always hot and ready." I think that's a lesson for life, Bruiser.
It is.
Yeah, they're not always, if you're expecting it, they're not always hot and ready. Sometimes you got to warm them up yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like, there's a couple places that you can do that. The take home and bake, take and bake. I like those.
Yeah. Take and bake is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more of a Papa Murphy's thing.
That's it. Papa Murphy's. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Papa Murphy's.
Yeah, I like them too. Intern Yoko cannot stand Papa Murphy's.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Her taste buds are weird. But
she's the only one I've ever heard that. I love Papa Murphy's.
No,
They don't have them out here.
Really? No Papa Murphy's?
It's a Midwest thing, I think.
Huh, okay. No, Papa Murphy's is good. I enjoy a good Papa Murphy's pizza.
I do too. And what I like is they don't take that long to cook, and when they come out, they're amazing. Mm-hmm. The customer that gave him the pizza, they probably came out ahead because their pizza that they got after that is even more fresh, more ready.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
See?
Now, I'm going to prove to you, we've had a lot of gun stories today, and some people may be saying, hey, this isn't fair. You're giving guns a bad name. I'm going to prove to you that the system works.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
This story proves to you that we don't necessarily need gun control in America.
Well, I don't think about that. But okay.
I'm getting controversial here, Bruiser, but this story will prove it. You ready?
All right.
A Canadian man is busted for swimming across the border to steal a gun from an American pawn shop. Let me tell you why the system works.
Because they realize he's Canadian, they don't allow guns in Canada?
No. You ready?
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
This is kind of a cool story. You ready for this? Donning a wetsuit, fins, and a crossbow pistol strapped to his back.
So what, shoot all those Canadian sharks he's going to see?
Yes. Jeremy Wallace went for an ambitious swim that ended in federal charges and 2 Michigan schools being locked down after he plunged into a river dividing the U.S. and Canada, swam across it, and then walked 16 miles into town to find the nearest pawn shop where he could steal a gun.
This guy is dedicated.
He is, but not so fast, Buster.
Yeah.
Wallace, a 24-year-old resident of Sombra, Ontario, told police he swam across the St. Clair River into East China Township in Michigan on September 6th around midnight because he was not eligible to purchase a gun in Canada due to a prior conviction involving weapons there. He told, right? So he's breaking the law right there, right?
Well, coming over illegally is breaking the law too.
Right.
And he's bringing a firearm because that spear gun's still a firearm.
That's right. He's all criminaling all over the place, right?
And then walking 16 miles in a wetsuit, that's got to suck.
Yeah. Talk about swamp ass, right?
Exactly.
Right.
You just imagine he doesn't take his fins off. You just hear clop, clop, clop as he's walking.
That's got to be a misdemeanor right there. Exposing minors to swamp ass. Because he had to have walked past those 2 schools, and he exposed minors to swamp ass. I'm just saying, I'm coming up with charges on my own here. So, On September 6th around midnight, that's when he did all this. He was not eligible to purchase a gun in Canada due to a prior conviction involving weapons there. He told police he intended to swim back to Canada with the firearm once he stole it. Here's the problem. Was he going to hold...
Good plan, man. Good plan. So on paper, this is a good plan.
Was he going to hold the firearm above the water line the entire time he was swimming?
He was going to do the backstroke with it above his head.
Because otherwise, you waterlog the gun, it's going to rust, and why?
Yeah. No, I'm assuming maybe he brought a bunch of plastic bags.
That could be. He had a lot of Ziploc bags with him.
Yeah, he's like, hey, the pawn shop's like, paper or plastic? He's like, plastic, please.
Lots of
all
plastic.
The plastic.
Yeah. A police affidavit accompanying the charges notes that Wallace also admitted to ditching his wetsuit after a few miles because
it's probably chafing.
Well, he began to overheat, it says here.
Yeah.
As
we've had a hot September.
Yep, that's right. As he set off on foot for the 16-mile walk into New Haven, Michigan. The Canadian man told authorities he had done his research on the store the night before. Well, good. He's educated on it. Yeah. He had also brought a hammer with him on the swim in case he needed to break into the store.
He couldn't find a rock laying around.
Yeah. But, Bruiser, and this is the proverbial big but in the sentence, but things did not go quite according to plan.
Oh, really?
No.
Darn.
NBC affiliate WDIV, the Div, reported that once Wallace got to the pawn shop in New Haven, why did I say that like Christopher Walken, like in New Haven, employees thought he was acting strange and refused to sell him a weapon.
Gee, you think?
Huh? Okay. Wallace then Wallace then allegedly grabbed a .22 caliber Sig Sauer pistol and 2 clips and fled the store.
That's not even a good gun to have.
Well, he just had to grab whatever was there, I guess.
What's he going to hunt with a .22 pistol?
Man, have you ever hunted man? To quote Jesse Ventura.
And this is just me being mean, but I'm really hoping that he successfully gets the .22 pistol. He gets back, gets his wetsuit on, swims back across the river. He's back on Canada, and a giant moose is face to face with him.
And decides to take him in the rear.
Yeah, because that .22 is doing nothing to a moose.
True. Well, let's find out what actually happened.
Okay.
So the store owners at this point contacted the Macomb County Sheriff's Office, and thanks to a rapid response, Wallace was located in a wooded area after a foot chase before he could slip back across the St. Clair River. The river averages a mile wide in most spots, and in September, the temperatures can hover from the high 60s to low 70s.
Okay.
When police found Wallace, according to the indictment filed in a Michigan magistrate court, they found that the crossbow pistol he had strapped to his back contained 9 rounds of ammunition. He had also loaded the stolen handgun at this point, too. Police said they pursued him due to their proximity and the warning from the pawn shop that he may be armed. The New Haven Elementary School and New Haven High School were forced to go on lockdown at that point. WDIV reported that a search of Wallace's home turned up huge caches of ammunition. It is not yet clear why he had such a stockpile. So there you go. The system works, Bruiser.
Yeah, the system worked. We're preventing a mass shooting because that's what he was doing. I guarantee it.
There you go. And it works across countries.
Good.
See?
Good. Throw the Canuck in jail. Good.
Throw the Canuck in jail. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. You know my love for Canada.
That's right. Now I'm going to tell you how the system doesn't work.
Okay, so we're back to what is normal.
Now we're back to normal.
One guy that's a complete idiot. So you have to be a complete idiot for the system to work.
Well, I'm just saying this isn't Florida, though. So I'm going to tell you why Florida's system doesn't work.
Oh, well, it's Florida. Okay.
Yeah, it's Florida. We go to Florida where the system doesn't work and tell you how a Florida death row inmate died of fentanyl overdose.
Ooh, well, he was going to die anyways.
Oh, come on, Bruiser.
I'm just saying, he was on death row.
Well, he is on death row. But it could take you 20, 30 years to die in death row.
That's the weird thing about death row. You can live forever on death row.
You can.
But he died of butt fentanyl, so that's okay.
He died of what? Butt fentanyl?
Yeah, you know that's how it is. It's got to be butt. They didn't give him fentanyl. Like somebody smuggled it into prison in their butt. I'm assuming that's butt fentanyl.
Well, let's find out. We don't know it's butt fentanyl for sure.
I guarantee you it's going to be butt fentanyl.
All right, let's see.
All right.
Let's reserve the butt fentanyl for now, and let's just say fentanyl overdose. Again, I'm talking like Christopher Walken.
It's the butt fentanyl. It just gets you walkenized.
Do they also have butt Narcan just in case?
They sure do.
An autopsy shows that Stephen Booker, who was sentenced to death for the 1977 murder of a Gainesville woman, died of acute fentanyl toxicity. See, he's been there forever.
Yeah, he's been there since the 70s. So I was just making room in with the death penalty.
I was 7 when he went in.
I wasn't even born yet.
I mean, look at that. He's been there forever, Bruiser.
Yeah, he is.
A man awaiting execution on Florida's death row for the 1977 murder of a Gainesville woman and who became a published prison poet. Say that 10 times fast. Died of a fentanyl overdose, according to records. 69-year-old Stephen Todd Booker died on November 3rd. This must be last year's article. Why is it up now?
It's the anniversary,
I guess. Well, either that or they're just finding out new stuff about it. Of acute fentanyl toxicity, according to an autopsy report that the Tampa Bay Times received through a records request this week. Okay, so the records request just came through this week.
That's what it is. So it's an open record.
Yep.
And they want to bring awareness to butt fentanyl.
We don't know that it was through the butt. Let's find out. The autopsy conducted by the Gainesville-based 6th District Medical Examiner included a toxicology report showing fentanyl, a powerful synthetic opioid, in Booker's blood and urine. The autopsy ruled the death an accident. The Corrections Department website shows the investigation into Booker's death is closed. The Times submitted a records request to the Florida Department of Corrections on June 19th, asking for a report on Booker's death, but the department has yet to provide it. The Times on Wednesday again asked the department's Public Information Office for the report on Booker's death and for answers to multiple questions about the case. The office by Friday had not provided the report or answered questions. Booker was found slumped over and unresponsive in a cell at Union Correctional Institution in Rayford during a security check. That, according to Dr. Thomas M. Coyne, who performed the autopsy. Efforts to revive him were unsuccessful, and emergency crews pronounced him dead at the scene. Coyne told the Times, citing information provided to his office's investigator. Coyne noted that Booker's lungs were full of fluid, and the toxicology report showed the level of fentanyl in Booker's system was well within the range considered to be potentially fatal. I knew in this case, Coyne said, in the absence of any natural findings, the only thing that could explain his death is fentanyl toxicity. Coyne said there is no evidence that paramedics had treated Booker with fentanyl. Okay, but fentanyl. And he noted that the toxicology report showed in Booker's urine the presence of a substance that is used to produce illicit fentanyl. All right, but fentanyl.
See?
There is also
smuggled it in.
There's also no record or indication that Booker had been prescribed fentanyl. All right, but fentanyl.
It's butt fentanyl, I'm telling you. All signs point to butt fentanyl.
Though key questions remain unanswered, such as how Booker got the drug, butt fentanyl, Florida's prison system has grappled with illegal drugs in its facilities. According to a Miami Herald story published in February, more drugs were seized in Florida's prisons in 2020 than in the preceding 2 years, despite lockdowns that allow only inmates, attorneys, and prison staff to access the facilities between March and September of 2020. I tell you what, Bruiser, side note, if you can find an attorney that will butt clench fentanyl for you, that's a special attorney right there.
I was going to say, Florida needs to start searching butts. Because, like, if their drug thing's through the roof, there's only one way it's going in.
If you can prison purse a whole bunch of fentanyl, you're a special attorney.
Exactly. And walk normal?
Yeah, well, yeah. The Herald analyzed contraband seizure data, and the analysis included heroin, cocaine, opioids like fentanyl and oxycodone, methamphetamine, Suboxone, and synthetic marijuana. Overall, the Herald reported the amount of illegal drugs by weight seized per 10,000 inmates was more than 40% higher in 2020 than it was in 2019 or 2018.
See, a lot of butt stuff going on in Florida.
Death row is subject to tighter security than other parts of the prison system.
They still don't check the butt, though.
Inmates that are there are counted at least once an hour and are escorted in handcuffs and wear them everywhere except for in their cells, the exercise yard, and the shower. That, according to the Corrections Department website, they are in their cells at all times except for medical reasons, exercise, social or legal visits, or media interviews. That seems like they're out of them quite a bit.
I was going to say, they're not spending that much time in their cells with all those things they can go to.
That's right. Booker, who is among the state's longest-serving prisoners, has said he struggled with drugs as a young man before he was arrested and convicted of the rape and murder of 94-year-old Lauren Winnie DeMoss Harmon.
94. Wow.
Yeah. Harmon was found in her Gainesville apartment with 2 large knives embedded in her body.
Oh.
An autopsy determined she died from numerous stab wounds. According to the website of the state's now defunct Commission on Capital Cases, investigators also concluded that Booker raped Harmon, and he was also convicted of sexual battery and burglary. While in prison, Booker became an accomplished poet, writing about incarceration, racism, and growing up in Brooklyn, among other themes. His work has appeared in top-level literary publications like the Kenyon Review, Seneca Review and Field, and has been championed by poets like Denise Levertov and Hayden Carruth, according to a 2004 New York Times story. Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
So there you go. Butt fentanyl.
Butt fentanyl's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's changing the landscape of prisons as we know it. So, another gun story.
Okay. They're everywhere.
This one is irony on top of irony.
Okay.
Okay. This is the literal definition of irony.
Okay.
A man is charged after a 2-year-old finds his gun on the bed and shoots him in the back.
Oh, well, yeah. Guns aren't toys, kids.
Not only
away from your 2-year-old.
Not only that, Bruiser, but he had a restraining order out on him and shouldn't have even been in the house in the first place.
Oh, God, yeah.
So the 2-year-old ends up being a hero.
I was going to say, so the 2-year-old's just protecting his mom.
That's right.
Nice. Good for you, 2-year-old.
Yeah. An Indiana man faces felony charges after he was shot in the back by a 2-year-old boy who found the weapon on a bed.
He's lucky the 2-year-old didn't shoot himself.
That's true. Yeah.
They don't know what it is, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. 32-year-old Justin T. Wiley of Fort Wayne was charged this week with neglect of a dependent, resulting in serious bodily injury and unlawful possession of a handgun. He is not legally allowed to carry a gun because of prior felony convictions.
So this 2-year-old actually saved a lot of, not lives, but saved some trouble for the police.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He was shot in the home of a woman who has an active protection order against him. Wiley told police he put the gun on a bed before the 2-year-old boy grabbed it and pulled the trigger, according to an affidavit.
Why? Sometimes I question people because, like, where in your right mind does it make sense to, okay, A, I have a restraining order, I'm going to go there anyways, and B, I'm going to bring a gun with me, and then C, you know what, I'm just going to put it on the bed here. There's no way a 2-year-old can grab it if he's on the bed.
Right, and like, not put the safety on.
Exactly. Why are you carrying it around without safety? And you shoot your penis off.
Essentially.
Yeah.
The woman told officers she heard the gunshot. Wiley then yelled, "He shot me." And then the kids started singing "Hey Joe" by Jimi Hendrix. The child had injuries to his gunpowder marked right pointer finger, including swelling and blistering, and he repeatedly said "owie" while looking at his finger.
Well, yeah, he probably heard it because the trigger it's not like an easy thing to pull.
No, but he managed to pull it. Good for you, kid. Wiley was released on bond following his initial court appearance on Monday. The Associated Press left a message Thursday at a phone number listed for Wiley seeking comment on the charges. Court records do not list an attorney who can speak on his behalf, but if he could, he'd say, hey, dumbass, you probably shouldn't have brought a gun to a protected household, and you probably should have stayed at home.
Man, I want to know, like, they need to go more into why was he there? Was it the mother and him were in a relationship and that's why they're restraining? You know what I mean? There's so many questions about this.
I don't think really there's any question. If you have a protection order out against you, you shouldn't be there.
Oh, I agree with that. And you definitely shouldn't be carrying a gun if you can't. If there's a child around, don't have a gun. It never ends well.
Well, it didn't for him, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the kid's taking marksman lessons over at the gun line.
Recruited by our Navy SEALs.
Yeah, that's right. He's being trained by the best of the best.
Yeah, exactly. This kid's gonna have a future. He's our new American sniper. I've been in this game since I was 2 years old.
That's right. You haven't hunted until you've hunted man.
We could flip it. We could go dark with this, and this is now the beginning of a future serial killer.
No.
He got a rush in his diapers after shooting that guy.
Oh, no. A rush in his diapers.
Hopefully he had diarrhea and was like, I don't want to ever do that again.
Owie. Owie. We continue in Florida now, where a Florida mom has abandoned her child in a running car because she wanted to go swimming and meet sharks. Why are people children all of a sudden?
I don't know. And why are we letting children have children? We need to get licenses for parents.
Right? We go to Tampa. You know, folks,
you're not guaranteed to see a shark either if you go jumping in the water. Like,
well, and if you want,
not like you just jump in and look, there's a shark.
And if you want to meet a shark that desperately, probably wants to meet you just as well.
Yeah, why not just? Here, Tim, this is gonna blow your mind. This is crazy here. Why not take your child and go to an aquarium where you can pet sharks?
Yeah.
Now you both go. You and your child. Look at that. Just made a memory.
Yeah. Well, why bond with the child when you can go up and hug a shark yourself?
Why bond with the child when you can just get bonded out of jail?
Yeah. A Florida woman reportedly abandoned her child in a running car while she swam in the water. That, according to the Lee County Sheriff's Office. The department responded to a call around 10:30 a.m. Monday at Captain Khan's Fish House in Lee County. God.
Captain Khan.
According to a witness, 41-year-old. She's 41 years old. She hasn't grown up.
Smart.
41-year-old Allison Sarah Daughtry parked her car near a local pier, turned up the radio volume, jumped into the water, and swam for 20 minutes, all while her child was in the car.
Why'd you turn the volume up? Is the child deaf?
I guess. Daugherty had also left the air conditioning on in the car so the child wouldn't swelter.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. NBC affiliate WBBH reported that people were shouting at Daugherty as she swam and that there were fishing hooks and sharks in the water. So she just didn't give a damn. She was just going to go swim and find a shark. She didn't care if she was going to get hooked.
Yeah. She's like, that's a bait. Cool.
By the way, she did yell back that she didn't care and wanted to get hooked and would want to meet sharks. When deputies arrived, they said the woman swam away from the coast with no intention of stopping. A local Marine unit...
You got to come in and get me with all these sharks.
A local Marine unit had to bring her back. God. A staff member at Captain Khan's Fish House said they saw the woman and her son 3 times that week at the restaurant and that she was acting odd.
Well, yeah.
They said, we called the sheriff's office. She didn't seem drunk. She didn't seem intoxicated. Staff member Jenny Ray told WBBH something was just off. Staff members said they were primarily concerned over the boy as he was young and still in diapers. They told WBBH he was very well behaved and seemed oblivious to what was going on. If it was me and that was the situation, I would want somebody to take my baby in and make sure he was safe, Ray said.
Yeah.
Doherty was taken into the Lee County Jail where she's being charged with 1 count of child neglect for leaving the boy unattended in a car for over 15 minutes.
And she had her child taken away from her.
You would hope.
I was really hoping to hear that she was on drugs and she had her leg bitten off. But karma is a thing.
It is a thing. Were you in band, Bruiser?
No. Well, kind of.
Kind of?
I took drum lessons and I took clarinet lessons, but I never really pursued it.
Have you ever been...
My son played trumpet for a year, and it was great because in our old place, he was up in his room practicing, and he came downstairs and says, "Hey, Dad." I said, "What's up, son?" He says, "I think the neighbors want me to keep playing. They keep banging on the wall." I said, "Oh, yep, you're going to go practice in the basement now."
Yep. Speaking of being irritated, you ever been irritated so much by a band that you wanted to take physical action?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we go to Birmingham, where one such person was so irritated by the band and the fact that they needed to stop their performance at a certain time that he got a police order to tase them.
So he could legally tase them?
At least the director of the band, yes.
Oh, okay. This is cool.
Yeah. This is
You
cool.
will be done at 6 o'clock. I have something going on at 6:15.
I saw this story, and I mean, it's cruel and unusual, and yeah, I giggled a little, but then I thought maybe it's just the evil in me.
Yeah. I don't know which side to fall on here.
Well, this is one of those choose your own adventure.
It is.
You're either
because
gonna...
I've been places where like, okay, this was supposed to be over an hour ago. Why are they still playing?
If you're in band, you're going to think this is cruel and unusual, and you're going to rage against the light here.
If you're a parent that's gone to your child's band,
yeah, you're going to be mortified. And if you are just a normal average citizen that has been in a performance that's gone way too long, you're going to think, hey, it's about time.
Yeah, there's been times where I've been at my daughter's choir concerts where I'm like, man, I really wish they'd just stop now.
Well, a minor high school band director was tased and arrested after Birmingham police ordered him to end the performance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he broke the law. All right.
Yep. The band director of a Jefferson County high school was tased and arrested by Birmingham police when authorities say he would not order his band to stop playing.
What note did the band play while he was being tased?
I don't know, but the saying "and the band played on" is not valid at this point.
Because if you look, they're looking at him. He's doing this hand thing. You know what I mean? So they know what to keep up. But if you're getting tased, your hands either go really straight out or they go up
or
in the air.
He's flailing. He's probably, and the band is playing faster. Yeah.
The band's like,
The incident happened Thursday night following the Jackson Olin High School versus Minor High School football game, which was played at Jackson Olin. The director who was arrested is Johnny Mims. Jefferson County school officials confirmed. Mims took over as band director in 2018 after serving as director of orchestra and bands at Mainland High School in Daytona Beach and director of bands at New Smyrna Beach High School in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, according to information found on the school's website. We are aware of the incident that occurred after the Minor and Jackson Olin football game. Superintendent Walter Gonsulin said in a prepared statement, "I am in the process of gathering all the facts and feel it would be inappropriate to comment further until the process is complete. I urge everyone not to jump to conclusions." Birmingham police spokesman Officer Truman Fitzgerald released this account of what happened. After the football game ended, Birmingham officers were in the process of clearing out the stadium and observed both bands still performing. Officers spoke with both schools' band directors to end the performance so students and attendees would leave the stadium. Officers were able to get Jackson Olin's band to stop performing. Officers approached Mims and began asking him to get his band to stop performing. Mims did not comply with multiple officers' requests to stop his band from performing. He instructed his band to continue performing.
They were in a band off. He wanted to show they were kings.
That's right.
What bands play after the football game?
None.
Yeah, that's baffling. So these are just two nerds that are like, hey, we're going to show them we're more nerdy than them. Play on. Okay, now you play. And then the police come over and the guy's like, yeah, I don't get tased, bro. We're done. Kids, put your instruments down. And the other guy's like, look how cool. I'm the king of the nerds. Keep playing.
A Birmingham Police Department sergeant was among the officers who attempted to get the band director to stop his band from performing. Again, this is the statement continued. During the officer's interaction with Mims, the decision was made to place him in custody. Officers attempted to take Mims into custody for disorderly conduct when a physical altercation ensued between the band director, Birmingham City School System security personnel, and Birmingham officers. I would pay extra money for this.
I would too. This is like, okay, not only do I get the game, but I also get a show. All right.
During the physical altercation, I didn't know band nerds fought. Birmingham.
We've never been to band camp, have we?
No, we haven't. Birmingham officers attempted to get Mims to place his hands behind his back, but he refused. The arresting officer alleges Mims pushed him during the arrest. The arresting officers then subdued Mims with a taser, which ended the physical confrontation.
Good.
Yeah. Birmingham Fire and Rescue Service treated Mims at the stadium.
And the band played on.
Officers then took him to UAB Hospital, which is standard protocol after this type of incident. He also got a lolly for his trouble.
Do you think the band played na 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 na, na, na as he's being carted out?
No, they played Shock the Monkey.
Yes, they did.
After being discharged from the hospital, officers transported Mims to the Birmingham City Jail, where he was booked in and subsequently bonded out.
You know what's going on now is they have a fundraiser for the band where they got to pay for. They're selling cookies so they can, candy bars, not for new instruments. No, it's for bail for their band leader.
Oh my God, that's too funny. Officers presented the case to the City of Birmingham Magistrate's Office and obtained warrants for disorderly conduct, harassment, and resisting arrest.
Good. Throw the book at them.
Yeah. The Birmingham Police Department's Internal Affairs Division investigates all incidents where an officer uses force during an arrest. So now they're going to look at the police officer and see if maybe he didn't go too far.
I don't think he did. I think this guy was just like on a high because he won the band off and wanted to keep playing, and the officer said to bring him back to earth.
All right. Another use of force. And you have to ask why.
Okay.
And this involves, by the way, we're getting into our, this is going to be part of our NSFW block. We have 3 stories left here on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. This is the NSFW, so get the kids out of the room. If you're still listening, by the way, and you have kids in the room, I don't know why, get them out of the room. If you're listening at work, be sure to put in your headphones or your earbuds, get the boss away. We'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, a naked man was shot dead inside a Memphis restaurant by the owner.
Okay. Not a place you want to be naked.
No, but the name of the restaurant is very interesting. Now, I almost want to go to Memphis to go to this restaurant.
Is it called Tube Steaks?
No, that would be even more ironic. The Mr. Potato Head restaurant.
Oh, I've heard of them. I heard they're really good too.
Really?
Yeah. God, years ago when we were in Nashville, it came up on a list of like restaurants to check out. We never got to it, but you know how when you travel like we did,
yeah,
you look for places because we didn't want to just do chains. We don't do mom and pops or whatever the local thing. And that I remember that name because I giggled. I'm like, oh, so what? They give you a raw potato and a bunch of like plastic pieces. You decorate your potato or what?
And they microwave it.
Yeah.
One of the owners of a North Memphis restaurant says she was forced to shoot a naked intruder who threatened her and her family members inside the business late on Monday night.
What is he threatening him with?
Evidently his dick. I have no idea. The woman, who did not want to be identified by name, said the man was dressed only in sneakers when he showed up at a Mr. Potato Head while the restaurant was closed, and he was asking for water.
So he was thirsty.
Yeah.
He was hot and thirsty.
Hot and thirsty. He entered after
because he was doing that naked 5K. that nobody but him heard about.
That's right. That's right. He entered after pushing his way inside. Hey, now, shutting the self-locking doors behind him. She said the man became enraged when he couldn't leave the restaurant and began damaging property. She said he also punched her in the chest and continued to come toward her, even though she was holding a gun.
Oh, he's on something. That's for sure.
Yeah.
PCP.
I was just afraid of the strength, she said. I'm pointing at him, asking him to calm down and stay away or get out of the store, which the door was jammed and he had no way out. So therefore, I was between a rock and a hard place. See what I did there? Rock and a hard place. And I just did what I had to do, she said. The woman said she fired one shot at the man when he charged her and shot him again when he picked up a chair to throw.
He's on that butt PCP, I'm telling you.
That butt PCP. It's just a scary sight, she said, and I know that people are saying what they could have done, what they would have done, but until you're in a situation, you never know what you will do, especially when the fear hits you. You never know what you're going to do, she said. He was a big guy, big enough to hurt me. Well, big enough to hurt me?
Big guy.
I don't know what that means.
Was his dick haunted too?
Let me do the Bill Curtis thing. He was big enough to hurt her. You know what I mean? The woman's sister who
penis on Murder, She Wrote. That's just what I'm thinking. Like, Jenna Lansbury would throw the piece of paper. I just see his dick whipping out a potato.
And then she saw he was big enough to hurt her.
She fell in love.
That's right.
Oh, baby.
The woman's sister who began live streaming after the shooting likened the man to a...
Of course.
You got to see how big he is. She began live streaming after the shooting, likened the man to a lion locked in a cage. When the police were called, she said the naked man was on the ground and she and her sister and brother were still locked inside the restaurant. This sounds like a porno gone wrong. She said she went on Facebook to let loved ones know what was happening. If the police came in and arrested us or anything, my family needed to know. Somebody needed to know where we were or what was going on with us. So they live streamed?
So, yeah, wait a minute. When the police show up, even if you get arrested, you still get to call your loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to arrest you because you were defending your property.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you were 100% in the right. You don't need to lie. She live streamed because she wanted to be popular. Like, oh, my God, you're not going to believe what I just did.
Check out the size of his Woody. When asked
I'm
about,
surprised I missed that pecker. I'm so surprised. It's so big. Can't believe I missed it.
When asked about the incident, Memphis police said a man was transported to the hospital in critical condition, later died. They said a woman was detained, but haven't released any further details about the shooting. Well, evidently, he shot his shot and she shot his shot or something like that.
She shot him down.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah. The woman who fired the shots confirmed she was taken into custody, but said she is not facing any charges. She said she never wanted to take another person's life. She says, I am not a monster. I would never hurt anybody on purpose. I just feared for my life and just did what I thought I was supposed to do, she said.
And then in other quotes, did you see the size of his pecker?
She said, I didn't want him to die or anything like that. I just didn't want to be the one my mom had to claim to identify. Oh, she's saying she didn't want to be on the other end.
Yeah, she didn't want him to die, but she didn't want to die either.
Right. The sister said they recognized a man from the neighborhood. Police have not publicly identified him. So there you go.
I bet you he was on that PCP.
Probably.
Just from the hot, the freaking out, the strength. It's all PCP.
File this next story under, so you thought your parents partied hard in the 70s.
Okay.
We go back to Florida.
Of course.
Where a Florida mom brought her son to a cocaine-fueled threesome at a hotel where a man died feet away from the boy, where he was left alone with the body for numerous hours.
Oh, God. There's so many questions. This headline brings up so many questions.
It does. A 32-year-old woman in Florida was arrested over the weekend for bringing her 11-year-old son to a hotel room where she drank, snorted coke, smoked marijuana, and had group sex with 2 men. One of whom...
You're not supposed to do that as a mother?
I guess not, no.
Oh, okay.
One of those men died overnight just feet away from where the child was sleeping.
Oh, gosh.
Amy Marie Kemper, who is definitely won Mother of the Year, I think, hands down, was charged with 1 count of child neglect without great bodily harm over the lecherous incident. I love the use of verbs there.
Hey, at least you didn't leave him in a warm car.
Yeah, true. Yeah, she brought him in.
I'm trying to look at the silver lining.
Yeah, there's a silver lining. Yeah. A woman thought it was okay to bring her child to a resort in the middle of the night so she could engage in narcotic use and sexual activities, Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley said in a statement. Unfortunately, her son was stuck alone in the room with the deceased male for several hours until she came back. On Sunday morning at about 9:39 a.m., deputies with the Flagler County Sheriff's Office and emergency medical personnel responded to a medical emergency at the Hammock Beach Golf Resort and Spa located in the 100 block of 16th Road East and Palm Coast. That, according to a probable cause affidavit. Upon arriving at the scene, paramedics began life-saving procedures on a 60-year-old unresponsive adult male. The little boy said, "Oh, I already tried that."
You think when the mom entered the room, she looked at the kid and went, "What'd you do?"
"I tried to fuck him to death and I couldn't do it. What did you do?" Anyways, after extensive life-saving measures were exhausted, the man was pronounced dead. Deputies spoke to Kemper, who said she had been staying in the hotel room with the deceased man and another 52-year-old man. The affidavit notes that Kemper also had her 11-year-old son with her on the scene. The cause of death was not immediately clear. Authorities say they found marijuana, Viagra pills, burnt blunts, and a silver tray with a white powdery substance that appeared to be cocaine inside the room. It is also important to note that numerous sex toys were located in the bathroom and condom wrappers were located around the bed, according to the document.
That was their problem. They used Viagra instead of Blue Chew.
Now, keep in mind, Blue Chew is not the tablet. It is the brand name.
Yep, exactly.
Right. So, there you go.
Man, 60 years old and you're still having threesomes. Good for that guy. Minus the fact there's a little kid there. How?
Do you think?
I don't. Oh my God! If I'm invited to a threesome and I show up and there's an 11-year-old there, I'm just leaving.
Do you think the 60-year-old was like, "Can you have the kid hold the camera?" I mean, make him useful. I'll give him a $5.
Hey kid, quick! We need you to straighten these lines up. Let's go.
Yeah, come on, kid. Here, take this credit card and make nice straight lines like you do, on the baseball field.
No, they probably put him on the bed and put on Looney Tunes and said, "Hey, stay here no matter what you hear." And then the guys in there going, "Call 911." Kid's like, "Nope.
Nope. You told me to stay here."
Told me to ignore everything. I'm ignoring it.
Why does my mommy sound like she's being butchered? In an interview with investigators, Kemper said she met up with 5 men at a bar. Oh, my God.
Oh, God.
The previous night, where they stayed until about 2 a.m. before picking up her son from his grandmother's house and going back to the hotel room. Why not leave him at Grandma's?
Just stay at Grandma's. Like, call Mom. "Hey, Mom, I'm going to get banged out and driving like a train." Just keep little Timmy there.
Hey, why's it got to be Timmy? Why do we have to use Timmy as the name?
I looked at you're frozen still, but I saw your little steel lunchbox.
Jesus.
It just inspired me.
Mom, can you hold on?
Okay, little Johnny.
Yeah.
John scene.
Yeah. Here's the kid in the background. And he's all sitting there, and Mom's like, "Oh, God. Oh, yes. Oh, God."
Wait, you weren't in a room when your mom was having a threesome with other guys at 11? I thought that's a rite of passage to be a Timmy.
No,
It's not
honey.
on the resume.
Honey, Mom's going to be in the background. You just stay right there, okay? Okay.
Seriously, why didn't you ask, little Johnny to stay with Grandma? Like, hey, Grandma, you got to watch little Johnny. I'm going to go get ridden like an Amtrak.
Ta-da!
Yeah. Like an Amtrak. Good Lord.
Yep.
So she went and picked up from the grandmother's house and went back to the hotel room. They all drank, smoked, and did cocaine except for until 3.
Well, we don't know Timmy didn't.
Well,
we
that's
don't
true.
know.
That's true. He was on his own until 3 of the men left so that she and the 2 remaining men could do the do in the room. So she told 3 of the men, she basically whittled them out. She just said, no, I find you 3 unworthy.
Yeah, sorry, fellas, but you're not okay with an 11-year-old in the room. You have to leave. Oh, gosh. Yeah, what is wrong with those 3? why those 3 can't be inside me? Like, this Six Flags is not open to you 3. You gotta go.
You must be this tall to ride the ride.
Exactly. If you want, you can play Go Fish with my kid, but you can't. You're not playing anything with this.
Kid, what do you got for a hand? All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If I show up for a gangbang and there's an 11-year-old, I'm leaving. Like, hey, I'm here for you're 11. What? No.
Kemper said that before engaging in the threesome, they attempted to put the couch her son was sleeping on into a closet and cover up the door with a sheet so he wouldn't see or hear the sexual activities occurring.
Hold on. This is shove the whole couch in the closet.
You okay in there, kid? Great.
Door won't close. What do we do? Just grab a sheet. Because this sheet is soundproof. Trust me.
Yeah. Just pretend you're a ghost in there, kid. Great. Sometime after the sexual activity ceased, Kemper said she heard what sounded like the 60-year-old man having a medical episode. But shortly after the noises stopped and they decided he was sleeping, Kemper and the 52-year-old man then left the room at about 5 a.m. and were gone for several hours, leaving her son behind. Oh, great. So they decided to continue knocking old
they
boots.
They probably went to go get breakfast.
You think? They went to refuel?
And the dude's like, I can only afford you, not your kid. She's like, oh, okay, we'll bring him back a kid's meal.
And it's free continental breakfast at that.
They're downstairs in the lobby.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take you down for free continental breakfast, sweetheart, but I ain't bringing the kid.
Yeah. I can't afford the kid.
Yeah, I can't afford the kid.
I can't be seen with a kid. He just watched me pound you.
Yeah.
I don't want to make eye contact. That's just weird.
You just watch me work you like an oil dyke. I can't have him at breakfast.
What's up, kid? Don't call me daddy.
He's going to give me the stink eye. When they returned at about 9:25 a.m., they found the 60-year-old man unresponsive and cold in bed. That's what she said. Just saying. Which is when they called 911. Investigators wrote that it was important to note that Kemper's son was left alone in the hotel room with the unresponsive 60-year-old during paraphernalia, or drug paraphernalia, not during, with the unresponsive drug paraphernalia and sex items for numerous hours, with which he built a fort out of.
I was going to say, he built a fort on top of the dead guy.
Yeah.
Here's my dildo steeple. Here's my handcuff entranceway.
You just see him building stuff.
And now I'm going to put some snow up on my forts. There's all the snow. Whoa, look, marijuana. Okay, there's my grass.
You just see this. DCF responded to the scene and took custody of the 11-year-old child, finally.
And the 11-year-old looked at the DCF and went, that dude couldn't party.
The kid looked at DCF and said, do you have next?
Did you win the 50-50? No? Okay.
Do you have a good side when I'm running the camera? I need to know. My mom's going to want to know.
You have a script. Is there a script I need to follow? Okay.
Is there a script? Kemper was arrested and transported to the Sheriff Perry Hall Inmate Detention Facility for booking. She remained in detention on how much bond, Bruiser?
$200,000.
No, not even close.
$250,000. $1 million. $1 million.
$15,000 bail.
That's it.
That's it. In Florida, that's considered a sport.
Well, so is what she did.
Yeah. So they that's practically employment there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she charged.
Upon her release, she's been ordered to have no contact with her son until the close of her case or subsequent court order. So I guess Timmy's living with grandma.
So literally the last memory the kid has of his mom is her just being pounded away like a rail stick, like a railroad spike.
Yes.
Just two men just bing, bing, bing.
Getting hammered like a 10-penny spike. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. You are just bringing out all the euphemisms today, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I sadly knew a woman like this. She didn't have kids, but she was that type of woman with the different men, and just thought all the stuff we used to say. Like her nickname was Turnstile.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's just say this lady was a little free. She's a little free with herself.
She's a new turnstile.
She's the new turnstile.
Scan your Metro card and come on through. Just not in.
Well, save a few of those euphemisms for this final story.
All right.
Because, boy, are we going to Pun City on this one.
I can't wait. I love Pun City.
We go to Oregon, where a Beaverton serial flasher has been sentenced to 90 months in prison for public indecency.
Please be a woman. Please be a woman. So you're flashing your beaver in Beaverton.
Oh, no, it's a man.
Oh, so much easier if it was a beaver and showing her beaver in Beaverton.
But this one's rich. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
A man has pleaded guilty to 2 counts of felony public indecency in August. He was sentenced to 90 months in prison on Monday. His name, Bruiser?
Yeah.
Is Michael Gordon Dick. That's right. Michael Gordon Dick was flashing his junk in Beaverton.
Michael Gordon Dick was showing some wood in Beaverton.
He was arrested in August of 2022 when neighbors called the Beaverton Police Department and reported Dick was standing on a bench in his backyard.
And people just said, "Hey, Dick, what up? Woo!"
He was naked from the waist down when he was standing on that bench and looking into the neighbors' backyards. Yeah, he was.
Hey, neighbor. How's it going? As you can see, the temperature's pretty cold out here.
That's a mighty fine backyard. You got me standing at attention.
So are we raising the flag tonight or tomorrow? Huh? I got the pole already.
Just saying. Police approached Dick, but not too quickly.
Yeah, you got to be careful when you approach Dick.
Yeah.
Be cautious.
Yeah. You don't want to scare Dick.
No.
No.
Because then it goes inside.
Yeah. Police approached Dick to ask if he had ever stood on the bench. Boy, if you
Make
could
eye contact with Dick?
If you could balance on that thing, you'd have talent for America's Got Talent.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see that on America's Got Talent. Hi, my name's Dick. What's your talent? My dick? Gosh.
My name is Michael Gordon Dick, but my friends call me Penis.
Watch, I can make it spin like a helicopter. Woo, 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 woo.
He claimed, by the way, he
want to hear church bells? Bing, 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 bing.
Church bells. I can ring my own gong. Bong. He claimed he was too ill, by the way, and denied the accusations. He couldn't have stood on that bench and showed everybody his wee willy winky.
Oh, because he's too ill. Okay.
Yeah, he's too ill to do that. So.
Yeah, I've never been that sick.
No. Another neighbor gave the police surveillance camera footage showing
camera footage. Okay,
that's right, showing Dick in various stages of undress.
Mr. Dick, yeah, is that you? Yeah, is that your dick? Maybe.
Could be. Evidently, that really has one of your dogs just absolutely in distress.
Yeah, it just so happened Bruiser happened to walk past so that they saw him. So now they're running up. Hey, we're just talking about Dick. Go back. It's okay. You girls don't need that. No sausages.
No sausages. So the neighbor got camera footage showing Dick in various stages of undress, standing on the bench or on a ladder as he looked over the fence into neighboring yards. He could also be seen masturbating as well.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. You can't.
I just assume that's what you're doing when you're flashing.
Well, not necessarily, Bruiser. There's different states. There's the flaccid here I am state. There's the at full attention state. We call it the salute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's the, grab it with the hand and show you mean business.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's the
beat it like you owe it money.
Beat it like you owe it money. Yeah. We like to call it the turn and frisk, I think is what it is. Yeah.
So you think they frisked them when they showed up?
Yeah. Yeah. Like the cops did when they showed up. Yeah. Are you ready for this? This next line is a good one. Dick already had a lengthy criminal history that included multiple convictions for public indecency. Get it? Lengthy.
He had a very lengthy.
Yeah, criminal history.
For showing his wiener.
Yeah. According to the Washington County District Attorney's Office, these past convictions elevated the charges to felonies. Dick,
I can see that. You get so many.
Yeah. Dick was also on probation for felony public indecency at the time of the incident.
See, he was thinking, well, I'm on my lawn, so it's not public. No, it's still public there, buddy.
Yeah. You elevated yourself and exposed yourself to the neighborhood.
He's like, well, that's my dick bench. Like, what am I supposed to do with my dick bench? You can't just sit on the dick bench.
Sure.
That's why I have a dick ladder. Look, it says dick right on it.
That's right. On Monday, a judge sentenced Dick to 90 months in prison. 90 months is what, 8 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
I'm not good at math, but I'm going to say yeah, because 8 times 2 is, yeah, okay, 1. Yep, you're good.
Is it 8 years or is it 7 years?
7.
7. Okay.
Because 8 and 12 is 96.
Well, he's got plenty of time to show his dick off to the residents at the prison there. So, yeah.
He is going to be the talk of the prison with the last name Dick.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah.
They're going to say, hey, we'll take a look at it.
Like, what are you in here for? Exposing myself.
Yeah.
Oh, what's your name? My name's Dick. Let me give you the shaft there, Dick.
Is that your name or what we're going to be playing with later?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you like to show your dick off, huh? Come on into my cell. Show me all you want. I'll see you in the shower.
That just got really tasteless.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you go to prison.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not to me. I don't plan on going to prison anytime soon. So.
Neither do I do. But Dick's going to be the belle of the ball in prison. We know that.
Oh, yes. Am I still frozen on your end?
You're still frozen.
Ah, that's too bad because I got a picture of Dick right here. I was going to show you a dick pic.
We've discussed this numerous times. There's no good dick pics, okay, Tim? None.
This is a very hairy dick pic I was going to show you.
See, it still doesn't look good. Dick pics don't look good.
It's more hairy around the shaft than the head, but I was going to show you a dick pic. But that'll do it for today for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals, and for our program for today. Tomorrow on the big show, supernatural news, all the news that's fit to print. Yeah.
Very excited.
We have an interesting story tomorrow that we're going to bring up in the conspiracy theory vein. I don't know if you've heard this or not, Bruiser, but there is a bodyguard that's come out this past week involving the JFK assassination. That says
you know what? I haven't done any research on it, but I've heard of it, and I was hoping that you got it, so I'm excited to talk about that. And I love conspiracy theories, especially with the JFK one.
He says he can prove there's a second bullet.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that tomorrow.
When I was at the Museum of Death in New Orleans, they have JFK's autopsy pictures.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're intimidating.
They are. So we'll that among some other things we'll talk about tomorrow on the big show. And of course, on Thursday, we have Adam Berry.
Oh, Be good to catch up with him.
Yep. Goodbye, Hello is the name of the new book. I will encourage you to go pre-order it right now. It comes out September 26th. It is an excellent book. Excellent book. So, and I'll tell you, the discussion itself will blow your mind.
Well, I can't wait.
Yeah, a lot of talk.
He's always a good interview, and it helps that you two are friends too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of talk of afterlife, creating your own afterlife. And what to expect, and just a little bit of a tease here. The connection between your belief on this earth and what you believe as far as a deity, or whether you believe in a deity, and what to expect on the other side.
That's kind of what we touched on last week at Supernatural News. I remember talking about that.
Yeah.
With the NDEs and stuff.
Yeah.
And that right there, if that doesn't sell the book, I don't know what will, you know?
Well, it's absolutely frightening. He talks about John E.L. Tenney's near-death experience.
Yeah.
And Tenney had one of the most frightening NDEs I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it.
Yeah, and now, I mean, Tenney thinks his NDE will be, and I should say Adam will talk about it on Thursday, so you'll find out. But the spoiler on it is that Adam talks about is that Tenney now thinks his afterlife will involve lots of people, and he won't go back to that same place. But you can look it up online what Tenney's NDE was, and it is frightening. It was just blackness, and he was the blackness.
Yeah.
He couldn't touch anything. He couldn't see anything. It was just, he was surrounded by blackness, and he was the blackness. And it's absolutely,
he was present in the blackness.
Oh, it was more than that. He was it.
Yeah.
I mean, and just, that's just frightening. You know, you couldn't touch anything. You couldn't hold anything. You couldn't be around anybody. You were it. It was lonely. Yeah. And, you know, we talk about the possibility of being in your own grave and being bone soup and being trapped in that body.
It's terrifying.
In the ground. And yeah, terrifying stuff. But different beliefs. And we talk about so many deep things in this hour and a half that I don't know. It was a really good conversation, just a really deep conversation, but a good conversation. So, Goodbye Hello is the name of the new book that Adam Berry has out there. Again, I encourage you to pre-order it, but tune in on Thursday. Good conversation there. So it's a good week this week.
Yes, it is.
That's for sure. That's for sure. So we'll wrap it up here for Beer City Bruiser. I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for tuning in to True Crime Tuesday. We can't wait to see you tomorrow for Darkness Radio. Have a good day, everybody.